He's running the Badlands. Explain those Badlands. That's a hell of a name.
Mr. Vice President, I'm going off script again, I know, but I just want to personally thank you. We've been through some stuff. We've gone through some of the most complex military operations this country's ever conducted, and your steady hand and your leadership during those was a great source of strength for me. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your character. Thank you for your selfless service. Thank you for commitment. Thank you for being a mentor to me, Mr. Vice President.
It's called the swamp. And you know what happened? And you know what I did? A big favor. I caught the swamp. I caught them all. Let's see what happens. Nobody else could have done that but me. I caught all of this corruption that was going on, and nobody else could have done it. Did I get that one right? Every 4
Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Wednesday edition of the Devolution Power Hour. As always, and unfortunately, Bernie Bright has returned. You know, Bernie Bright.
I come back to you at the turn of the tide. I think
This is not the tide, bro.
I am burning white now. I've been to the other side. I encountered a Balrog of Morgoth in the depths of Moria, and I fought him to the lowest dungeons and the highest peaks, and smote his ruin upon the mountainside.
That's not what
yes,
I heard.
I do know every line of Lord of the Rings in order.
That is not what I heard you did.
Somewhat doubted until I started reciting the movie to her when we initially lost power.
Well, I'm glad you survived the winter storms, to say the least. But
it was pretty bad.
Yeah, you are very white, though. I'll give you that.
Yeah, like a White Walker.
Burning white. I think we should. I think we should stick with that. That'll stick. But yeah, man. Since the last time you've been on, well, first of all, last week we had Alpha fill in. It's a pretty good discussion. Probably a lot of things left unsaid. We'll have to do it again soon. But then in the meantime, from then till now, we have had a minor conflict breakout in the Middle East, and I think we're probably going to spend a little time talking about that tonight.
A little bit.
We don't even have normally when we do shows, we'll have at least a couple stories or headlines or something lined up that we'll talk about. We don't have that really. What was that?
I sent you some the other day that I
know, but normally I have that stuff ready. I have a bunch of tabs open that we could click through, but this probably will end up being a little more conceptual. Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
There's a couple feedback things I want to get from the chat too, and you, in terms of how the normies are feeling. With what's going on. So I think there's some conversation to be had around that as well.
We got to figure out how we're defining those these days.
That's true.
I was saying in our private chat, is it something where if you try to wake up the normies too hard, do you run the risk of becoming a normie?
And then putting the normies to sleep.
Right. Yeah, like a contact high.
I think I think we need to have this discussion, and we will. Mm-hmm. So we'll see what happens. But there's something else I was going to bring up here in the intro to you. Now I cannot remember what that was.
The problem of the Jews? Was it that?
No, I don't think it was. I mean,
backstage, yeah.
If we're thinking about it, every problem is a Jew problem, depending on how you look at it.
True. Right.
But no, I don't think it was that. I don't know. Maybe it'll come to me, maybe not. But whatever. You excited to come to GART?
Yeah. It's funny. In February, it felt like it was ages away. And then the calendar flips and it's like, oh man, that's right over there.
It's like 34 days away.
Yeah.
Paid the final deposit for the venue, so we can't back out anymore, you guys. So make sure.
You can't back out. Everybody else can, I think.
Yeah, I guess the rest of you can.
But yeah, you can just kind of have a party yourself and hold speeches, do some streams.
Yeah, well, depending how the ops go this time around, maybe that'll happen. We'll see.
They've already started. Yeah, they're starting in our chats early, but they're pretty, low this time.
Yeah, they tend to lose their effectiveness over time. But yeah, let's how about this? Let's get a quick word from our sponsors, and then we'll start talking about the Iran situation and just see where it goes. Yeah. See what happens. Try not to piss everybody off tonight, but we know that typically never works. First up tonight for a sponsor, we have some love litters. Attention all you Badlanders with purring pals and feathered friends. Say hello to Love Litters. 100% pure kiln-dried wood, free from chemicals and oh so kind to Mother Earth. No dust, no mess, and no toxins. Just a lightweight solution that's gentle on your wallet and even gentler in your home. Their biodegradable litter is crafted from wood destined for landfills, giving it a new purpose in your pet's life. And cats love it. Love Litter's astonishing formula works like magic to neutralize that notorious cat urine odor, keeping your home pine fresh and welcoming. And for bird lovers, it zaps moisture from bird droppings, crumbling them away, all while being safe if pecked at or ingested. And for reptiles and critters too, their mix is crafted to dilute the pine scent, ensuring those little lungs stay happy and healthy. Plus, every 30-pound bag of Love Litters will last up to 6 months, saving you some money. So transform your pet care routine today. Visit badlandsmedia.tv/litter. That's badlandsmedia.tv/litter, and breathe easy with a litter that loves your pet just as much as you do. Yeah, big shout out to Love Litters. They've been good to us, good people. Yeah, I'm trying to find. Have you seen
the
it?
GART?
I don't know. That's a good question. You should talk for a second, because I'm trying to find our updated Tiny Bright commercial.
The murderous one.
Yeah. I don't remember where I put that.
If I ever get mauled by an abnormally large otter, then that's going to implicate you pretty directly.
Well, how would I control an otter like that, man?
It's true. You can't even control a regular sized otter, never mind one that large.
Can't control anything these days.
Yeah.
Okay, well, while I'm getting that pulled up, we'll just let's start with this conversation, because I'm curious what you guys in the chat, and like you, Burning Bright, I know you have like your other job, your normie Twitter. You know, I have my friends that I talk to, and other people that are outside of our bubble. I'm curious what vibe you guys are getting from them about the conflict that's going on right now, because I think it's interesting, and I want to know where everybody's heads are at heading into those pesky midterms. Like my golf buddies, there's a interesting mix of people. A couple people in the financial realm. One guy sells like energy stuff. You know, it's not like gas, but it's a gas company. He sells one of their other products. And then a former National Guard guy who sells stuff for Bobcat. Like he purchases equipment and supplies and stuff. So pretty good mix. Most of them, I would say, are overall against the conflict. They don't like it. They don't want it. The one guy that's like, I understand, I see it, like, let's just do it, get it over with. If it's just the strikes, I'm cool with it, whatever, is the National Guard guy. But yeah, overall, it's I would say a negative vibe on the conflict in the Middle East. So that's my group of people. What are yours feeling?
Yeah, this is where my overuse of the word bicameral fits well. And I think this is where the conversations keep getting lost a little bit with some of the truth community. I believe that Trump is executing a masterstroke with what he's doing there. That's all based on what I think is going on. And I know I've seen some of your clips and some of your posts this week. I think we're largely generally on the same page of how we see, generally what's going on here. The irony is, I was going to say on an actual level, but I kind of mean on an actual narrative level. I think there's a lot of narrative disentanglement going on. Maybe we can save that for kind of the bulk of our discussion. But you've got to be able to go bicameral with this and say, you can believe, if you're a Q person, a truth community person, an info war person, which if you're watching this show, you probably are, you can believe strongly that Donald Trump is executing or is a part of a major fifth generation warfare campaign that will ultimately result in net good, and therefore be ironically cheering for what's going on through that framing. I don't think that there's a problem with that. I'm kind of entertained by what's going on in my own weird way. I think you and Chris are similar. But with that said, the problem I'm seeing is when you talk about the normies, whether that's like normie conservatives or normie liberals, they are looking at all this on an actual basis. They're looking at the news, including the news coming out of the White House. This is not just the fake news. This is what the White House is telling everybody about what they're doing. You can't blame Normieville for reacting to the things the Trump administration says it's doing in an honest manner. It's ridiculous to criticize normies for criticizing things that Trump says he is doing. The irony of my positive views on what Trump is doing is I don't think a lot of what he is doing is what they are telling us they are doing, which goes to a point that you make a lot on this show, which is that Donald Trump is directly engaged, in my opinion, in psychological warfare operations that also impact the American people. Whether or not you're okay with that is a whole other argument. But most people here, including people in the Q community, believe that, which by definition means Donald Trump lies to the American people. It's just that if you think he's lying to the American people for the benefit of them because he's, working on these crazy 5th-gen psyops, which is what I think is going on, we can maybe twist ourselves into knots and say that he's not lying if you look at it from a certain direction. But from a normie perspective, those are lies, right? Yeah. So, my baseline would be when I watch, I've been saying in private chat lately, there's an ironic thing going on where I think 2008, 2010 liberal Burning Bright would beat most truth community people in an earnest debate right now on the geopolitical front. Because most of the truth community is not trying to figure out what's actually going on in Iran and that there might be a disarmament going on. There's a lot of fog of war and smoke and mirrors. Mm-hmm. Most of what I've seen is the just earnest, unironic cheering for a surface level narrative, which is a regime change operation in Iran and the bombing of Tehran and a wider geopolitical conflict, the strangulation of Chinese energy exports, the owning of Russia and the breaking of their alliances, from all the same truthers who are talking about sovereign alliance stuff the rest of the year. So from that perspective, Normieville looks a hell of a lot better right now than a lot of the truth community. And I do separate a lot of our audience from that because a lot of our audience watches a lot of the shows at Badlands because they do think that there's more going on here.
Yeah, and that's the thing. The key word there, I would say, is think. A lot of us think we're right about a lot of things. And this is something I've been kind of talking about on my daily show the last couple days. But it's the willingness to acknowledge how often we're truly speculating about most things. Like even the devolution theory, guys, it's a theory, right? I'm very confident in how accurate I am about the theory. Hasn't been proven yet. Maybe it never will be. But at the end of the day, there's a certain level of speculation and almost a good level of faith that we have to operate on to figure out like what we think is going on. And then as things unfold, it can, map onto reality, as Chris would say. But there's a lot of people online in the community, in our community, and sometimes we fall victim to this ourselves too, is we're very confidently and adamantly 100% certain that we're right about what is going on right now. And the pattern I'm seeing, and this was kind of highlighted with I think we can talk about it. Other people on here have been talking about it, is oh yeah, we're talking in the chat about somebody got muted. Yeah, hey man, Brad, if he deserves it, he deserves it.
I defer to Brad's judgment.
Yeah, I do too.
I mean,
if he deserves it, he deserves it. If he needs a couple
swing
nights,
that hammer around for no reason.
If he needs a couple nights off, of being muted, then that's fair. He probably did something he shouldn't have. Anyway, that's talking about the chat. But okay, so what I'm saying is like, let's talk about the Julian's Rum thing real quick. Okay, Julian's Rum, you did a show with him for a little while.
Yeah, for like a year.
Yeah, good dude. Known him like through messages. I've never actually met him in person, but we've spoken quite a bit. I think he's earnest. He's one of the OGQ guys, and he comes out and he has a post, and a lot of people were not happy about his post. I don't even know if you want to pull it up. We can even read it.
Yeah, let me find it just for context.
Yeah, because what he posted is a very real and organic feeling that people who don't trust the plan as hard as others are feeling right now about Trump and what they're witnessing. And it's an understandable one. It's not a feeling I personally share. But I think it's something that we should talk about because it's not so much his post itself that concerns me. I mean, it's obviously a little concerning that people get to that point, especially considering his history with being one of the OGQ guys and whatnot. But it's also the reaction to his post, the reaction from the people in the truth community that it's a little concerning. Like, I know Julian's Rum, or I think I know Julian's Rum, is a well-intentioned dude. It's young family. He's not one of those that's like...
He's a very smart guy, too.
Yeah.
A very smart guy.
Like, I've been saying for a while now that even though we believe the golden age is coming and all these things, we haven't felt the effects of it yet. Like, I haven't seen economically or financially in my personal day-to-day, things change. I'm still only a millionaire. I'm not a billionaire yet. And this is like very frustrating, you know, that things haven't like escalated. But for real, like he's feeling that too. Other people are really feeling that way. And at a certain point you get fed up. And this is what he said. I voted for Trump. I won't be voting again. Many young conservatives feel the same way. We're sick of this shit. And the whole thing just set off this firestorm. And I see people online in the Q community and like broader truth community. There's this weird like rift going on where everybody who disagrees with what you think is happening is a paid infiltrator. That's the go-to accusation. Oh, you just must be a paid infiltrator. And there probably are some of those on both sides, but it's right now this Iran conflict is the perfect embodiment of the cheerleader doomer spectrum that I've been like talking about the past couple of weeks, because it's playing out in real time. Mm-hmm. And so they're vilifying people who don't agree with what they think is going on, yet they advocate for what they think is going on as if they know with 100% certainty it's going on. But then when you look into like their previous history of commentary on the region or the topics or whatever, it's a total inversion of what they said before. Yeah. Like you flip-flop on the topic of what you think is happening. And then right now with, you know, you for years, we're talking about how Trump would never get into another war. He's done with that stuff. We were not even going to bomb these people. It is unconstitutional that these past presidents did these bombings. Trump is never going to do that. And then now you're cheerleading it on. Like everybody's become neocons now, the things we've been fighting. And it's a total inversion of what they were before. And now they're vilifying people who are ironically arguing the points that you used to make. It's such a weird clusterfuck in the community. And I think it has an effect on the normies too, because the normies who are coming into this, like trying to figure out what's going on, looking at the social media, trying to figure out what's going on. How do you think they're going to respond to that? Nobody's going to be willing to even like speak their mind out of threat of being called a paid infiltrator or whatever. It's just so dumb.
Yeah, there's a lot of layers to this. And again, I'd lead by saying that if you espouse those previous positions on saying you don't think, for example, the position you just brought up, that you don't think Donald Trump is going to get us involved in any new forever wars. That is a reasonable position to have held last week and last year and last decade. I still hold that position now. And that is the consistent thing. I might not be right about that. I don't believe that Donald Trump is getting us involved in a new forever war. But when I'm presented with these seeming contradictions, which is, I think, what separates people who figured fifth generation warfare out to some degree and people who use 5GW in their Twitter bios every day, but don't actually understand what that is, you have to try to reconcile the seeming contradiction, right? Mm-hmm. You have to say, I didn't believe Donald Trump would get us involved in a new forever war. He appears to be doing that right now. Mm-hmm. Do I believe he is doing that and was wrong about my previous position? That could be the case. Or is there a way to view this wherein he is not doing that?
Oh, definitely.
Did he maybe tell us exactly how he's not? Like, that's a whole separate conversation, right?
Yeah.
But on the Julian's Rum point, if you're not doing that, like Normieville, the American mind can't be expected to be playing fifth dimensional chess and narrative inversion games. They are supposed to be looking at what the president is telling them he is doing and reacting to that in an honest manner, right? And there's a couple follow-ups that Julian, that I just saw when I pulled the tweets up that he posted there. I won't go through all of them, but there's a couple of them that I thought were worth sharing, where he said, too many Trump supporters who consider themselves red-pilled are still utterly unwilling to admit that Israel lies at the core of America's problems. That's why I'm being such an asshole about it. It's time to face this simple reality. Now, I was going to say nobody's going after Ghost for this, but they do go after Ghost every day for this. And then he says, it's not blackpilling to say this is the opposite of what I voted for. I think I'll stop voting. It's not betrayal. It's communication that my vote needs to be earned. It's the whole fucking point. If there's a plan, me not voting has already been planned for anyways.
That's so funny.
Which is similar to the Chris Paul-ism of nothing can stop what's coming except for all of these things that can stop what's coming.
Unless we pass the SAFE Act, yeah.
And then I didn't see that he did this because I actually don't look at anybody's feeds on Twitter. I just post notes there. But he retweeted me retweeting you. And you had this great post yesterday or 2 days ago.
Maybe
on
we should read that. Maybe we should read that because
you should read this. It's a post that kind of sums up this whole thing.
Yeah, because I was kind of victim to the hate for a little bit. On Saturday morning, I woke up, was kind of scrambling to get my kids ready to go to swimming lessons, and I saw that, hey, we bombed Iran, and this was like a day or two after I just posted this whole thing about how Trump is the president of peace. He's ended a wars. There's this weird op going on right now where they're trying to make it seem like he's doing something that he hasn't yet. I was like, just like, don't fall for the psyop. And then I posted, let me see if I can find it. I posted a follow-up that was like, well, looks like I was wrong or something. When was that? Did I post that Thursday, I think? Friday.
Well, Saturday was the start of this, right?
Let me see if I can find the actual. Yeah, I said this didn't age well. Very unfortunate to wake up this morning and see Trump taking us to war, indefensible. And realistically, I probably, if I could go back in time, I would use a different word than indefensible.
Yeah.
But regardless, that I don't really care about that. But this is the post. I got to find myself here so I can read it because that is way too small.
I've got it on. Oh, you can't see it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I could put my glasses on, but I don't want to. How about you just read it for me? It'll take me forever to find this.
Allow me to try to explain my position better. So this was actually John said it's weird that you.
I can read it if you want.
Give him some context.
Yeah. So Chris Stevenson says, not sure it's about being offended. Or here, it's weird that you people get so offended at me for being a Trump supporter who is opposed to American involvement in foreign wars. I'm going to take you off and put my screen up.
Okay.
Sorry, we're kind of all over the place with this, guys, but because I do find that weird. Like, I think you can do both things at once. And then Chris Stevenson, good dude, follower for a while, says, not sure it's about being offended. You built a following around taking a step back and thinking through what the Trump orbit is really doing. At the time, it seems we are getting to a breaking point around many complex dynamics. You decide to virtue signal in a very simplified way. None of us want foreign war, but we have been through a track record of happenings and have built faith that the Trump orbit is doing some heavy complex lifting. I think people are surprised that you aren't being more careful, thoughtful with this. And I said, allow me to try to explain my position better. I think it's broadly accepted amongst the truth community that Trump is constantly conducting psyops. So with that understanding, it would be retarded to agree with and cheerlead for everything Trump did and said. A good example is when Trump advocated for taking the vaccine, many of his supporters chose not to, especially those who believe there are bigger things going on behind the scenes. When people discuss why Trump advocated for the poison, we understood there to be some 5G warfare at play. Trump did something many people didn't agree with. We didn't blindly listen to what he said. We don't blindly cheerlead him when he kept bringing this up. Instead, we advocated for our displeasure while still supporting him throughout. Was that virtue signaling? In my opinion, the best way to not get sucked into all the psyops is to operate based on your first principles. I'm going to advocate for the things I believe in. Sometimes that's in line with what Trump says and does. Sometimes that's not. My first principles are mine, and I don't expect anybody to share them with me. I also don't expect to always be correct. I can do that while understanding the bigger picture. One of the things I believe in is that Americans should not be involved in foreign wars. That belief doesn't change just because Trump is the one doing it. You said none of us want foreign war, so why are so many cheerleading it? If Biden or Obama was the one doing these bombings, what would the reaction be? I believe I understand much of the geopolitical complexity of the situation. I think I get the game theory behind the strikes. I know Trump has access to far more information than anybody else in the world. I obviously trust that he knows what he's doing and is doing so with our best interest in mind. I also have no love lost for the evil people our military is taking out. Trump will always have my support and my trust. He has earned those for me 10x, but that shouldn't require me to cheerlead Americans fighting and dying in foreign wars. Those are not mutually exclusive. I'm going to navigate the info war while advocating for things based on my first principles, even when there are negative social incentives for doing so. And by the way, much like Trump's continued support for the vaccines, this Iran situation is largely unpopular to the broader public outside of our social media bubble. Imagine a normie coming onto Twitter trying to find out what's going on and finding that many people in the truth community are shitting on people for not blindly cheerleading the Iran strikes. We shouldn't have to advocate for things just because we trust the plan or whatever. Okay, so go ahead with what you were.
Yeah, and I just thought it was notable that, I would have, like, before, when he brought up Julian Zerum's original tweet there, I was going to bring up this post and say, like, this could have been what he meant. I didn't know that he had literally retweeted this post. So
my post or your?
yeah,
or
well,
your,
I retweeted you and
Yeah.
you retweeted me, but that's, you know, he was retweeting that as the main argument. And, you know, that's obviously he agrees with it. And I think it adds nuance here because I think your post, the thing that's good about it is you're talking about how I set this framing up by saying, if you follow and study fifth generation warfare, which most of us do in the info war, I always say if you use the term info war, then on some level you're trying to understand fifth gen warfare. You know it's being used, right, for you and against you. Julian's rum, most people were reacting to him as if he doesn't know that that is going on. The irony of that is that for anybody who is not aware, he's like an OG among OGs of Q people. I started following the Q drops within a week of them going live, and Julian's rum was there right at the very beginning. You know, he had a super viral video retweeted by Trump a long time ago. Earnest guy, like you said earlier. Doesn't mean I necessarily agree with his first post. I think his first post makes total sense on a surface level reading of what's going on. Yeah. I think his later retweet of your post acknowledges that he is aware that there is fifth generation warfare going on that he does not know, that none of us know. And as you said earlier, like Chris talking about the discombobulator, me talking about narrative disentanglement, like these are our theories. A lot of us feel very strongly about these things, but we don't know if that's what's going on. These are just our reads on these things. But I think a lot of people are having difficulty separating those viewpoints out, which is why I liked your post to say, hey, how many people in the Q and truth community constantly use the refrain of waking up the normies, right? Like, we don't actually do that. Like at Badlands, most of us don't actually even believe that that is the goal anymore. And that's not my goal. My goal isn't to wake up normies. I don't even associate with normies anymore. Like, I don't think that that's the goal. And I used to. I used to think that was the goal. But so many people in the truth community still think waking up the normies is the goal. And if you think this is waking them up, ironically, you might be right. But the funny thing is, them criticizing the appearance of a new forever war in the Middle East is good. Yeah. It's good, right? Like, in other words, if I was to take like the Q drops at face value and Donald Trump as a master of fifth gen warfare, and Trump, how many times has Trump talked about, I take all these slings and arrows? Yep. Do you guys think the slings and arrows Trump is talking about is just the media being mean to him? You think he gives a fuck about the media? Day one, he didn't care about the media slings and arrows, right? What is he talking about? I'm starting to think it's stuff like this. Yeah. Donald Trump is waking up the normies by provoking them into taking principled stances against all of the things that they used to cheer for. Yeah. Right? How many Orange Man bad people are cheering against or are rooting against all the neocon bullshit that they blindly cheered for both the Bush and Obama administrations on the back of?
Such a good point.
Now they're pissed, right? So, and I'm not pretending I had this take like years ago, but now I'm starting to think like, who are the people that Trump actually probably in his private moments is like, I wish they kind of knew what I was really trying to do for them. I don't think it's Politico or CNN. It's Julian's rum. It's the people like that Trump's like, that's like one of my guys, right? Like that is one of my guys, Julian's rum. And to get him to the point where he's like, I'm fucking mad about what is going on right now, I don't think it's actually a bad thing. I think it's like, what are these people arguing against? What are the stupid normie liberals on your Twitter feed? Is it tinged by Orange Man bad and they just want to get the Orange Man? Yes, of course it is. Yeah. But are their stances principled? Yes. Like, they're all saying, hey, I hope this doesn't turn into a forever war. And in fairness to them, every presser that Pete Hegseth gets out there and gives, at least Trump gives us these nuggets of, to hint at the game theory that might be going on here with his Israel comments and everything. He's given us like good eating with all the Trump conferences. But Pete Hegseth gets up there and talks like an insufferable neocon warhawk over and over again, and the MAGA base just cheers for him. And if you superimposed a Pete Hegseth press conference from March 3rd over a Donald Rumsfeld press conference from 2002, it would be the same press conference, word for word. And I wouldn't be surprised if they're using those as templates.
Did Donald Rumsfeld say squirter in one of his press conferences?
Have referenced the squirters. Yeah.
I don't remember him. I feel like that would have been a meme or something at some point. Right. But no, I think you made a really interesting point there, almost accidentally, because I know you didn't do it on purpose. But the fact that like it's almost a good cop, bad cop, like Chris says, we've talked about this concept a lot, how, you know, Trump's the lightning rod, he'll take both sides of the same issue, and then eventually we'll find the principled answer in the middle, and that's like the way we should be going. Well, Trump campaigned on no wars. His first term was about ending wars and all these things. He's done some strikes, he's done some discombobulating, but here the story we're getting is like we are bombing the shit out of Iran right now. We aren't sure why we're doing it. We're getting conflicting reports. We're being lied to about why we got into it. Some say that it's, you know, because of Israel, like we did it for them. Some saying it's, well, we had intel that they were going to bomb us first. Then some are saying, well, you know, we just had, like, we're not getting the right answer. We're not getting the truth. We don't know why we're doing it. And there's people taking the principled stance. We have people who are anti-Trump now against the forever wars. The only people that want this war and are cheerleading this war are the Warhawk neocons and a good section of the truth community.
Yeah.
Everybody else is against it, whether that's by principle or their Trump derangement. But either way, like, that's what I think the answer should be. That's at least my principles, is we shouldn't be getting involved in these Middle East wars at all. But it's a really interesting thing that Trump is the one that can get everybody, or at least most people, to the right place on the same issue. And yet somehow some people are just all in on it. And that's the community that prides themselves on being the truth community. That's why I don't understand. Even if it is for PSYOP reasons, even if it is for other reasons, we can claim we think we know. We're not. It's not the London fucking bankers, by the way, guys. The Promethean action stuff. Go read Matt Ehret's Substack today. He kind of put a kibosh on that in a pretty emphatic way. He did a really good job. That narrative that's being pushed about like the London bankers and stuff, I wasn't even sure. Like,
retarded.
I didn't really want to touch it. And then until I saw his article, I was like, oh, well, obviously that's ridiculous. So go check that out. I'd encourage you to. His Substack is Matthew Ehret, Ehret. You know what? I'll put the link in the chat here. It's called this: How Mega Influencers Are Morphing into Neocons. Check it out. I don't remember where I was going to end that with, but anyway, you guys. That's just that you point.
And I think the point you made there too about the truth community. Again, I do think there's a discombobulator in effect here, and I think that we are going to see Trump come out of this looking really good. The difference, I think, between us and some of these other people is that when I say something like that, which I did on Saturday, I lay out what that would look like, right? Like, a lot of people are just like, this is going to look good for Trump, don't worry about it, while cheering for bombs dropping. And it's like, okay, well, you're not really trying to figure out anything then. You're not really trying to understand whether or not anything here is good or bad or anything in between. So I just kind of laid out like, hey, if you start seeing the media the warmonger media, the neocons, start turning on Trump within the next few days, that's going to be your first marker. If you start seeing the Israelis start turning on your Trump, that's going to be another marker, right? And what did we see? 1 day later, John Bolton turned on Trump. 3 days later or 4 days later, Netanyahu is a little upset with him that he's talking to some people, right? The reason those are signs that this is fifth generation warfare and that not all is as it seems. The criticism of parts of the truth community that you're bringing up still holds in that scenario. We're not criticizing people for thinking that Donald Trump has a plan and is ultimately doing the right thing. I agree with that. We're criticizing people who think that getting us into a new war is the right thing. I don't think that's what Donald Trump is doing. And I think that's the distinction that people are having a hard time with. Like, oh, are you against Trump? No, I'm for Trump. I think you're cheering for Trump for the wrong reasons. And I think he's probably sitting there being like, oh my God, these people really think we're getting into a new forever war, and they're all just cheering for it. And Chris used this term earlier in our private chat, and I've been using it for a long time about neocons and conning influencers saying that they've been using MAGA as a skin suit. They've been wearing MAGA as a skin suit. And I certainly believe a lot of people are doing that with the Q community. Again, the irony of the people that dogpiled Julian's rum is that guy is 10 times the fucking Q decoder and OG Q guy as most of the people that are still left in the movement. And in fact, two of the guys that are still at Badlands, Jordan Sather and Brad, I always try to bring up as OG gets, Q decoders, that half of the Q community shits on constantly now because they actually have principled stances and use the drops in a principled, logically consistent manner, whether or not they're right. And I think the biggest, last point on this would be the biggest marker that I've seen that demonstrates the hypocrisy going on right now is most of the Q community has been using the quote, Israel for last, for the last decade. And you fucking know, if you're watching this show and you're a Q person, you know exactly what they meant by it over the last 10 years. You know exactly what the implication of that was.
What do they mean? What did they tell me?
Generally speaking, the implication was that Israel is going to be exposed. Israel, because the context of those drops were all about rooting out the deep state. And they said this was also in the context of the rooting out of the deep state beginning with the Saudi Arabia purge of 2017, which was what Q-pilled me. That was what made me be like, that whoever is behind these drops has real intelligence of what is going on in the future, because they called the Saudi purge days before it happened. Sure. And that's one of the biggest geopolitical events that we've seen in the last decade, right? So they said that's the start and Israel for last. So what's the context there? That's my interpretation. But most Q people over the last decade have been clearly implying the context is that Israel is going to be the most difficult deep state element to take out. I don't mean the nation of Israel. I mean the evil twin, as Chris would say, element within Israel. And then on Saturday, half of those Qfluencers flipped on a dime to saying, we told you Israel for last meant Donald Trump and Israel are going to work together to take out the deep state. That might be true.
In Iran.
Yeah, in Iran. That might be what's going on, right? I might be totally wrong about that. Ghost might be totally wrong about that. What I'm saying is those people did not believe that on Friday. They did not go to sleep Friday night believing Israel for last meant Israel is going to save the world. On Saturday morning, that's what they believe. And by the way, guys, clip this out, because I bet within a few weeks, they're going to go right back to that earlier framing of it. And we're already getting some headlines that make it seem like Israel's not that happy with the communications Donald Trump may or may not be having with Iran right now. So then how do we frame Israel for last? It's just to say that people change their readings of these things, but don't admit that they're changing it. When what you have to do is say like, hey, I used to think this about interpretation. New information has come to light. I was wrong. And for some reason, large swaths of the truth community believe that admitting you were wrong about something means that you're not a truther anymore, when it's like the ultimate proof of having been one.
Yeah. It's also, it's not even that part. Like, everybody gets stuff wrong, and it is what it is. It's kind of gross, for the people who don't admit it and try to change the facts. Some people delete posts. I've seen that. Caught people doing that. I had people ask me to delete my post where I said indefensible. I was like, I'm never going to delete a post. Like, if I'm wrong about something, I'm wrong about something. I'll own up to it. It is what it is. I don't care. It's the way it's their behavior towards other people who didn't change their stance, who are upset by this, because the whole Israel for last thing, that prior interpretation, this would kind of fly in the face of that. It's like, this is not what we think is going on. This is, against my first principles or whatever. Now the people who flip their stance are attacking those people who didn't change at all. Right. And like trying to accuse them of being something they're not. It's ridiculous. It's gross. Well, it is what it is. But
which is exactly Julian's rum. He's had that stance from the beginning. He might be wrong about it, but that's been his stance.
So like, let's change this story to a different type of story from Trump. right? So like the way we saw everybody flip flop into being against forever wars, then all of a sudden neocons overnight, we love this. This is great. What about endorsements? Okay, think Lindsey Graham. Trump is endorsing Lindsey Graham again, and there's rumors he's going to endorse John Cornyn in Texas. I don't know if he has yet, but his endorsements are by no means like representative of what we think is going on, right? Like nobody likes Lindsey Graham that I know of, yet Trump keeps endorsing him. Are we supposed to cheerlead for Lindsey Graham then because Trump endorsed him? If you follow the same logic and the same behavior, yeah, you should. But yet, for some reason, with that, they won't even maybe really address it. With a big story like Iran, and maybe it's because it's such a big story that they can't not talk about it, and they have to pretend like they understand what's going on and they know exactly the details, and this is what they told you all along. So they just like flip the script and very adamantly, portray as if they know what's happening while trying to attack other people. But they don't do that with the smaller, more insignificant stuff, and it's I don't know. Patterns, but we should stop talking about like the community stuff. I was more so wanted to get into the normie discussion over this, because I think that's where, not that I care whether the normies wake up, but it's more of a curiosity of how people outside of our bubble feel about this. Because I mean, man, we've been in this position here at Badlands where we've been trying to pursue the truth, and the truth to us is that not everything deserves to be cheer-led, and it almost seems like there's stacking and compounding things that to the outside of our bubble who believe there's something bigger, that it's going to chip away at their potential, like, if midterm support, let's say, not that not everybody cares about the midterm stuff until our elections are fixed, but that is a real thing. And so how do we reconcile that with what we think is going on, what we think is coming? And but I don't know. We didn't quite go down that path, but maybe there's other things we should get into.
Yeah, to revisit, and I do want to get into, because you and I haven't done a show on. I want to get into what we actually might think Trump is doing here.
Yeah,
we might be wrong about that, but that's the fun shit. That's why we do this, right?
Yeah.
But on the normie point, the point I made a little bit ago about Trump provoking them. I used to kind of use that framing, and I used to think of that a little bit more trust the plan framing. Like, I used to think Trump is provoking all of them, and he's doing it to get them engaged in the narrative, and then they're going to see the truth, like all of us have. I still believe part of that. I believe the first part. I do believe Donald Trump is provoking them. Or at the very least, he knows that what he does is going to provoke these kind of reactions, right? Sure. Like, I think everybody could agree with that. Whatever you think is going on with Iran, Donald Trump is not surprised by the reaction to it. He's an extremely savvy guy. I think even the media would say Donald Trump is probably not surprised here. He's a very savvy, he's savvy when it comes to the culture.
And I think
his base.
Just a real quick side note, we've talked about for many years how we believe that they have access to like levels of information about us and levels of like the polls. He always calls the polls fake. Well, how do you know if the polls are fake unless you know what the real numbers are, right?
Exactly.
He's got access to the vibe and the mandate or whatever on all these different topics based on our social media shit. They're surveilling the shit out of us, guys. It's just reality. Palantir, all the info they can collect on us. If you don't think that they're using that to their benefit with whatever they're doing behind the scenes, you're lying to yourself. And so they know exactly how strikes in Iran are polling or were polling, or the thought of it, and how they, it's probably not what everybody wanted. They're probably more surprised than anything about some of the positive reactions to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I wanted to say, is that if Trump is disappointed at anybody right now, I think it's the people unironically cheering for Operation Epic Fury. And by that, I mean, I think Operation Epic Fury, there might be actuals going on, right? But I think it is largely a narrative operation, a fifth-generation warfare operation. That doesn't mean it's fake. It means it's a narrative deployment, which is what fifth-generation warfare is. It is so amazing to me still that we have people in the truth community who do not think narratives are the driver of fifth-generation warfare, when it is what defines fifth-generation warfare according to the United States military. Like, It's not just according to conspiracy theorists. So that's what I think is going on. But I think that Trump, to your point, is probably like, guys, if you're cheering for Epic Fury, you should be cheering for the 5th gen warfare deployment Operation Epic Fury, not the appearance of what the media is telling you about it. But yeah, I mean, I think, to go back to that earlier point, I think he's provoking the collective mind. Where I've changed my mind is that it's the slings and arrows refrain. I think about the Dark Knight trilogy so often with Trump, and that analog has only deepened to me in the last couple of years. Think about the ending to the Dark Knight. It's funny you just brought up Palantir, and I promise this makes sense. Remember how Bruce Wayne in that movie, Batman, has all this tech, right? By Lucius Fox. Morgan Freeman is kind of his tech guy.
I haven't watched The Dark Knight as many times as you have. So
okay. Well, there's an infamous scene where toward the end of the movie, Batman is surveilling the cell phones and communications of everybody in Gotham City all at once. And he's trying to sift through. Yeah,
is this the one where he goes into the pit and has to like work his way out and come back?
That's the next one. This is the one before that.
Okay. Is this the one with Bane and like on the plane?
The Joker.
The Joker. Okay. Sorry. Just got to get these straight. It's been a long time since I watched
these, man. It'll blow your mind with Trump framing.
You know, a while ago, I was like, I should really rewatch those. And then you started talking about it. And I was like, I can't ever watch these again.
They fit so well. It's uncanny. But in this scene, Bruce Wayne is using surveillance on the civilians of Gotham in order to find the Joker's plants, the terrorists, basically. And Lucius Fox, who gave him this technology that he retrofitted, is like morally outraged by what Bruce Wayne is doing. Because he's like, hey, you're supposed to be the good guy. What the fuck? And Bruce is like, I know, I understood that you would have this principled reaction to what I'm doing, but I also know that you're not going to stop me because you know that I'm using it for good. And Lucius is like, yeah, you're right, but I quit. And Bruce knew he was going to do that. And it's a perfect example of Bruce using a technology that we would say is immoral for good, and Lucius understanding that that's what he's doing, but not liking it. And like both of them understand each other in that moment. And the reason I draw that analog to Trump and Palantir, first of all, that is what Palantir does. It gives unlimited, like godlike access to everybody's data all at once. I do not think it was invented by the good guys. I do think it's been commandeered by them, however, which is exactly what Bruce Wayne does in that movie. And at the end of The Dark Knight, like the thing that people don't really talk about that movie, even though they quote it a lot, Batman is a bad guy at the end of The Dark Knight. The Dark Knight ends with the citizens of Gotham City believing that Batman is the bad guy. And that's when Commissioner Gordon says, he's not the hero we deserve. He's the one we need right now. And I'm thinking about Donald Trump in navigating these narratives and like taking all the slings and arrows and all of Normieville being furious at him. But in the bunker, in the Batcave, Trump is looking at the normies, to your point, and going, yes, where was this during Obama? Where was this during George Bush? You should be against this. You should be against regime change. You should be against foreign involvement in wars. And where I think it's ultimately going as an end state is I do think that there's a resolution possible here, not just in Iran. I mean, in general, the way Trump navigates these things, where even the normies, they might not think Trump was a master of 5th gen warfare and navigated us through this crisis. But I do think that the pattern that's going to unfold and is unfolding rapidly over Trump 2.0, even for the normies, is going to start to encode this grudging acknowledgement that, you know, every time Trump does something totally crazy, it seems to work out.
Yeah.
And like, I'm not saying that's what they think right now. But if you use your imagination and just say, we get an Iranian peace deal and there's peace in the Middle East by the end of Trump's term that nobody's ever been able to do.
Yeah.
I think even normies will look back at this and be like, man, I don't know if he planned that, but I do know that he ended up fixing the problem.
Yeah.
So I think that that's kind of like the dialectic we're seeing unfold.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's obviously the hope here, right? Is that if there's anybody that's going to break the mold of the forever wars, it's him. But to present it as if we know that with the level of certainty, like that is going to happen. I don't think we can operate that way. But in that metaphor, are we Lucius then? Are we the ones that are like, we're
Julian's
quitting?
rum, I would say, is Lucius.
Okay.
Well, we could be, because we think we know what he's doing, and we think he's doing it for good reasons. But I actually don't think it's.
But we
morally
opt
bad,
out of the psyops.
Yeah, we opt out of the psyops. That's a good way to put it.
Try to, yeah. But no, I think you're right. That's obviously, guys. I understand. Nobody likes war, and we all think this is different. Like, I agree. I think this is going to end up being different. That's the hope. But because we don't know that for a fact, and that is speculation, you can't operate based on that speculation. That's my whole point on that whole thing. But let's get a quick commercial break, and then we'll come back and maybe get into some of the other stuff around, the Iran war, or whatever else you want to get into. China's new economic numbers are coming out, and they're interesting. We can get into some of that. Senate blocked or tried to block his war powers here, but they couldn't pull it off. That was interesting. But anyway, real quick, soft disclosure.
Legend says, on St. Patrick's Day, a beard without oil is just a chin with ambition. But a beard with soft disclosure beard oil, that's true treasure. Spiced vanilla, naked, smooth as a leprechaun's getaway plan. Soft enough to impress your barber, bold enough to confuse a baby goat. And this boar bristle brush tames your beard like it holds the crown coin. Every bottle is American made, which means when you buy Soft Disclosure, you're supporting 6 American small businesses. That's not luck, that's capitalism with cheekbones. And while you're at it, try our mint green deodorant, because even legends need fresh pits. Soft Disclosure, go for gold. Visit softdisclosure.com and use promo code TINYBRIGHT for 15% off.
These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. Promo code does not apply to bundle discounts.
It's so funny.
That roar reminds me, John, that roar that could not emanate from an otter, even if it was a large otter. Do you know what separates a big cat from a great cat?
Big cat.
It's not a joke. It's an actual biological fact.
A big cat from a what?
From a great cat. So, like a big cat, like a leopard, a tiger.
Yeah.
Like that's what we refer to as a big cat.
Okay.
There's big cats, and then there is a subcategory of big cats called great cats. Do you know the 4 great cats and what separates them from the big cats?
I don't, and I feel like I may not care. But
try to name them. See if you can name one. It's probably should be pretty obvious. What would be like the greatest cat?
Probably a lion.
No, how dare you? Think of me. Think of your best
I'm
friend.
not gonna say it.
So a lion is one of the great cats.
Okay, well, see, I had it right. So don't say no.
It's a lion, a tiger, a jaguar,
oh my,
and a leopard. And jaguars and leopards are not the same thing, even though half a chat probably thinks they are and can't tell them
I would have
apart.
gotten 3 of those. I wouldn't have got the jaguar because those are I got lion, tiger, and leopard in my head. Jaguar, I've tried to tune that out ever since that recent ad campaign. It's like I try to block that out of my mind, so I probably wouldn't have got that one.
They are known to be gay.
Yeah.
But what separates great cats from big cats would be something like a cougar, mountain lion, a lynx. Those are other types of big cats. A cheetah.
How does one elevate from big to great?
The ability to roar.
Really?
Yep. So it's not just about size. It's about the ability to roar.
Oh.
And mountain lions cannot roar, nor can cheetahs, nor can lynx.
What about panthers?
Panthers. Glad you brought that up, John.
That's what Ghost brought it up actually in the chat.
Panther is one of the strangest words associated with cats because all panther means, literally, is black cat. So there is no such thing as a panther. In fact, a Florida panther is not a panther. It is a cougar. So it's a mountain lion. Those are all the same animal.
See, when I thought Florida cougar, I thought something different. I didn't even think cat at all.
Right. That's true. That's a whole subspecies in and of itself.
Yeah.
But a panther, as most people think of it, like Bagheera from the Jungle Book, he is a black leopard. That is what Bagheera is. He is not a panther. And in fact, there can be black tigers and black lions. They're just exceedingly rare. And those would also be called panthers.
Should we be calling them African American Panthers in this day and age,
Maybe
or
we should just call people. Well, the black people already did that to themselves, right?
the Black Panthers?
Like they named themselves the most racist thing you could to own the white people.
Oh, to own the White Tigers, probably.
Was there
No.
white tigers?
We should, isn't there a thing about a white tiger?
That's like a Chinese kung fu gang. From
Is
the
it? Because if it's not, we should start that.
We can
and that
start
can
it,
be like
yeah.
our white power gang. And we can make JB
I'm
and
in.
Cam the face of it.
Yep.
Somehow.
Anything racist, I'm in.
Yeah, I know.
don't
I
have
know.
to explain it.
I know you are. Real quick, I want to do one more quick commercial where hopefully there isn't a follow up about all sorts of
I got all kinds
zoology.
of cat facts.
I'm
Yep.
sure you do. Here's a little inside scoop, guys, that many creators are talking about behind the scenes. It's actually one of the reasons I'm using Rumble. We've been using Rumble for a while, but they made a way to super chat creators so we get paid immediately and without any fees. This is really one of the cool things they've implemented. YouTube and Twitch take up to 50% fees when you tip creators. This method takes none. That's right. The platform takes 0 fees. We keep nearly 100% of what you send us. You can super chat with Bitcoin, Tether, USD, or even Tether Gold stablecoins. The tip will show up directly in our Rumble chat, which I'll do my best to read. And then all you need to do is download the Rumble wallet on the App Store and send the tips to your favorite creators. You can go to wallet.rumble.com, or you can download the app directly from the App Store. It's an amazing way to get rid of the middleman and help the creator economy. Shout out to Rumble for making this disruptive technology. And that's for sure, guys. We've talked about this a lot. We created our own like Badlands boosts to kind of cut out the middleman. We've had all sorts of different methods and talk about support. And when you can cut out the fees and the middleman, it's kind of game changing.
By the way, guys, when you do send us that stuff, I saw a couple of people send over using the Rumble wallet to Story Hour last night. Wait until we're live, because otherwise it goes away. I mean, you don't have to, but we don't often see it unless you send that to us while we're on the show. But anyway, yeah, we much appreciate that. There are people using it. It does work. So it's cool to see those sats. I like to imagine those 5,000 sat donations as dollar sat parity in the future.
Yeah, once we get up to a certain amount, I don't know how much yet. Maybe like, gosh, I don't even know where we're at now.
500 billion.
No, I'm just like, once we get up to like a flat number, we can divvy it out amongst all the creators. We got to figure that out on our back end, but whatever. Is there anything else like
about leopards and?
No, I assure you, I have none. I've had my fill of animal trivia for the evening. Right. But is there anything else like interesting around the Iran war that you want to get into? I find it interesting, some of the narratives that are floating around. I already kind of mentioned why we got into it. There's some people saying we're doing it on Israel's behalf. Trump is adamantly saying no. If anything, they're doing it on our behalf, and I think that's an interesting narrative. There's some interesting stuff floating around about the munitions, which I think is kind of funny. Both sides are essentially accusing the other side of being like almost out of ammo in this thing.
yeah.
Which is weird. Like, and if that what happens at that point? Like, what happens if we get a story where everybody's out of munitions? Then what happens?
Narrative disarmament, mutual disarmament has been one of the themes I've talked about. I know Chris has talked about that. One of the big macro themes that I think is going on, with a lot of these conflicts. I wrote speaking of racism and double entendres, I wrote an article called "The N-Word" in the summer after Trump infamously said that a bunch of times, and with his shit-eating grin. He's like, you know what I call the N-word, right? Who was that to? Was that to Tucker or Hannity or something? I forget who it was. He kept saying, he's like, I call it the N-word. Do you know what the N-word is? And then he says, nuclear. So I said in that article, I think that was June or July, in the first Iran fake crisis, I said we were going from denuclearization to renuclearization, and that denuclearization was renuclearization, because I bet what's going to happen on the back of however long this narrative plays out in Iran is that Iran is going to have a civilian nuclear energy program, which they're already seeding. You were posting stuff about this earlier. Chris was posting stuff about this. The Russians and the Chinese are invested in the Iranian civilian nuclear energy program. Donald Trump, in his quote-unquote back channels with the Iranians that he is denying exist to the Israelis, is talking about a civilian energy program. So that's what a lot of what's going on here, where I think that we're basically witnessing narrative disarmament. To bring up another Q refrain, I haven't seen. There might be some out there, but I haven't seen any people decoding one of the most infamous drops in the context of what's going on here that I thought of right away, which is the Hunt for Red October in the Q drops. The captain turned into the path of the torpedo before it could arm itself. I'm actually working on another article right now called Path of the Torpedo, and I think that's exactly what's going on here. That's my read on the situation. I think that Trump gave you a massive hint of that yesterday, I believe, when he said, when asked if Israel forced his hand, he said, I might have forced theirs. I believe that Donald Trump is giving us the appearance of regime change in Iran and all the bells and whistles with it to head off the actual regime change plan and forever war that was going to happen. And if people think that's silly, it is exactly what we said we thought was going on in Venezuela. Mm-hmm. And Trump is telling you to the New York Times, I think on Sunday, while I was on the narrative and talking about this, he told the New York Times, we're using the Venezuela model. And the New York Times kept trying to ask him what that meant because it didn't seem to make sense on the surface. And he said, it will be the exact same thing as the Venezuela model. And in case that wasn't enough of a hint for everybody of what's going on here, Trump, in between piloting us through World War III right now, put out some truth posts over the last couple days all about how fantastic his relationship with Delcy Rodriguez of Venezuela is and all the deals that are coming together and they're already running at full speed, right? Could you have imagined, well, we could have imagined because we said it when it was going on, but if you're a normie, could you have imagined, like January 5th, that on March 3rd or 4th, relations with Venezuela would not only be stable, but mutually enriching both countries?
Yeah.
Nobody in the world would have believed that. And nobody right now believes that's going to happen with Iran. And that's exactly what's going to happen with Iran. I just don't know what the timeline's going to be on that.
You see this? This came out before we went live. Trump officials broker massive U.S. Venezuela gold deal.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. We're one of the interesting things about this conflict and us the timing of the Venezuela thing first is like Venezuela and Iran we're allies, energy allies for China, and they've been totally cut off by this. I would say, and it's very much damaging them. There was a story that came out. This was just a couple hours ago too. China
that might be fake, but
it very well could be. China sets lowest economic growth targets since 1991 from the BBC. Again, just a story, but the line here I thought was global trade tensions and an energy crunch due to the Iran war, where we talk about Trump as like rebalancing the trade. But yeah, I think in terms of templates, you're spot on. I do anticipate this to be something very similar to the Venezuela thing. Timeline is what's iffy, and
just as a button here to what you just showed. I'm not saying this is true. I'm just saying there are contradictory narratives right now about China being cut off because Chinese tankers seem to just be gliding right through.
Well, I didn't say cut off. I just said energy crunch.
That's what the media is saying. They're saying that China's being cut off, basically. But
well, that's another interesting aspect is the whole insurance for everybody with boats. Yeah. Everybody maritime gets insurance from the United States. So just keep the energy trade and flowing. We'll not only will we escort you through, but we will insure you fully to make sure you don't lose anything. That's pretty interesting. Trump doesn't want this to affect the energy markets at all. And I wonder if that's because he anticipates it to not last very long. So just like, hey guys, don't worry. We'll guide you through. Like if that's a long-term commitment, I'm definitely not a fan of that. Like we're going to insure everybody on the global stage for how long? Like we obviously have no idea how long it's going to play out. It's a very dynamic and fluid situation to us.
Insurance is only risky if you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Right? That's the whole point of insurance. So insurance only costs, we would only pay for something if bad things happen, right? So if Trump knows that nothing is actually going to happen to these tankers, then insuring them costs nothing because we're never going to pay anything out.
Has there been any damage to tankers yet? Do we know?
There are reports of damage to tankers. There was one I was reading about earlier tonight. This was not in the Strait of Hormuz, but this was a report about a tanker off of Kuwait. Now, are these, I don't know if these things are true or false or what, but this is, Russia claims that this was a Ukrainian drone that hit this tanker off of Kuwait. But either way, the media, the global media and the financial media is talking about how, the whole region right now seems unsafe. So to your point about Trump's, like, I see the insurance thing as a narrative deployment largely. He's telling the people operating tankers, like, hey, keep doing you, like you just said. But the funny thing about markets is markets are narrative, right? So everybody in the energy industry and betting on the price of crude oil and everything understands that there's a lagging effect on the actuals.
Oh, yeah.
And yet, when Trump put that post out, all the oil prices went down and stocks rebounded.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, but hold on. But there's a very serious bad war going on in Iran. And you guys all tanked all of this stuff last week because of that very bad, serious war. And now Trump said something about the future on Twitter. And you've reversed all your pricing action.
That's how they do with everything, though. Like
that's what it is.
They've constantly done that based on a Trump tweet. And that's
exactly.
I did a show, gosh, it was a while ago, but I was like, you just wait. Trump's going to lower the price. Like, he's going to put a post out there. The prices are going to come down on a certain I don't remember what the fuck it was. And then he's going to do another post like shortly thereafter. And it's Trump. He's like, he told you when to get into the stock market, didn't he? Yeah. He's like, now's the time to get into it. Get into it, guys. Buy the dip. And sure enough, then a couple of weeks later, news comes out and everything pops back up again. Yeah. It's so funny how he can manipulate the market and the mindsets of everybody with just a simple truth post.
Yeah, I had written an article months ago on Scott Bessent that was randomly popular, and I in that I had posted something from Rabobank, and Rabobank is like considered, real OG alt media investor guys. So, but otherwise normies, but they're very well respected in kind of like the maverick investing space. And a few months ago, I think this was during the Trump-Xi back and forth, the trade war between Trump and Xi, the like fifth one we've had. And Rabobank put out a letter to their donors and their constituents, basically saying, it's starting to seem like nothing is real, and that both Trump and Xi know that nothing actually needs to be implemented against each other, and that they can just move their markets with their headlines. And like, these are the market guys that are now starting to pick up on, not only they've known forever, to your point, that narratives move markets, but they've thought of that differently than we do. Market guys think news moves markets. The news of real things happening move markets. They are starting to understand that Trump just saying some stuff moves markets. And him saying some stuff doesn't have to have any bearing on reality at all. And yet it's completely changing markets. And I think that's actually a net positive, because people are realizing that the stock market is entirely a belief engine.
I got to show you this too. Did you guys see, this is off topic with the financial stuff, but the White House put out a video where it starts with like a Call of Duty clip, and then it turns into a compilation of all the shit we're doing and bombing and taking out. Have you seen this clip?
No.
Oh, it's amazing. I mean, it's basically, you look at this and you're like, this is bad gaming. This is John and Zach playing video games on Sundays. But no, it's not. It's just the White House Twitter page.
Get hyped.
We're winning this fight.
Gear up.
control.
Sorry, I was really loud. I couldn't get it turned down for me, but
Okay.
whatever. You guys got it.
How are we to read that?
I don't know.
To use we need a Chris Paul rhetorical question segment.
Yeah.
What does it mean when I say that lovingly, by the way? I love when he does that. But what does it mean when the White House leads into a real war montage that many of us believe is a fake war with fake war footage that they know everyone in the country knows is fake war footage, and then overlays that over out of context real war footage? Does it mean that they're trivializing war? Or does it mean that the war is more like a video game and that that's what's actually going on here?
See, here's the thing, though. Like, when it comes to, I'm sure Trump will end up reposting this, but like, I don't think, and there's going to be people who disagree with me. You're probably going to disagree with me. Like the White House, comms team, whoever runs the White House account, maybe it's Dan Scavino, maybe, other people. There's Rapid Response. There's all these different like government accounts that are run by people. Like, they have somebody who manages their social media and compiles these videos, puts them out, or finds them online, puts them out. I don't read into every single one as like, okay, well, this is maybe a comm from them trying to tell us how to like interpret this if we're paying attention. Sometimes you can definitely interpret things that way. I don't know. I just think it's freaking hilarious that they're doing it, because they know the effect they're going to have is people are going to interpret it that way, whether that is what's actually happening or not. It's ridiculous. But
I would agree with that, and I think that's all you need, right? Like you know what they know the effect of this video is going to be, and I don't know. I mean, it's kind of like if they're unironically posting stuff like this about the very real beginning of what normies think is happening, which is the start of a new forever war, then we are actually in a very dark timeline. A darker one than I would say even the Bush era, right? If you're a normie, and that's why normies are spinning out. That's part of why they're spinning out. Because it's not enough that the Bush regime got us into a forever war on the back of a very real false flag and national tragedy. But all the lead up to the invasion in Iraq and Afghanistan was very solemn and serious, right? Like, they weren't trivializing it. I'm not saying it was obviously a huge psyop and horrible, but I'm saying that the government and the military treated it like this extremely serious thing that we all have to get on board with. The current rerun is the White House putting out Call of Duty videos while getting us into a foreign war. So, I choose to look at that and say it's not actually that serious. But yeah, you could look at it and say they are just not taking something very seriously.
Yeah. I mean, guys, Higseth said squirter the other day. Like, how seriously can they be taking it? But I don't know. And the story we're getting to out of there that is a fun one is how Iran has responded by, like, they're going down just like spraying, they're shooting everybody in the region. Doesn't even matter. I think that's an interesting narrative. Some of their allies that they thought might come to bat for them so far, we're told, hasn't. That's the Saturday before the war kicked off. Me and Chris did a show and we were talking about what we expect to see if we do, go to. And so even though I came out and said, didn't think it was going to happen, but I bet we're going to get the story of like, hey, a couple bombs here and there, minimal casualties. They're going to bomb us back. Allegedly minimal casualties, if any. Obviously there has been casualties, we've been told. But Chris made the point that, well, Trump is meeting with Xi soon. China's kind of there in the region. Russia is kind of there in the region. Like, is Trump really going to go and, do something like that with those guys right there with meetings on the horizon? Probably not. And it turns out Iran may not have been entangled with those two countries quite like they probably thought they were. A lot of how it's playing out so far to me has been kind of a sovereign alliance, proof, if you want to say.
Yeah, I wrote about for the brief tomorrow and something I'm working on. I wrote about the Russia angle today, with this because I noticed, not only am I trying to think of like how does Sovereign Alliance fit into this, but there was a series of propaganda pieces that all hit yesterday on the 3rd, specifically not just talking about how Russia and Putin are being affected by this, but basically antagonizing the Russians about what Trump is doing. I can pull a couple of them up, but I thought that was notable because it demonstrates that they certainly want that to be the takeaway, right? The media wants it to be the takeaway that these strikes that Trump is doing are very maddening to Putin and Xi. I'll just show the headlines. We don't have to go through the articles. Here we go. So this was from Foreign Policy. Trump puts Putin in an Iran dilemma. Reuters, Trump's Iran attack rattles Russian hardliners who call for Putin to double down on the war in Ukraine. And then Politico, why Khamenei's killing hit Putin where it hurts. So they're obviously trying to say like Putin's losing support. His people really want him to break from this tentative alliance with Trump. And that's what I thought was signal there, is that all these media globalist rags buried in that propaganda are acknowledging Trump and Putin had a cozy relationship that seemed to be getting cozier, and hey, this might ruin it, which usually you can just take a reverse indicator there. I don't think that's going to happen. There's also some indication. There's many ways this could go. I could see it escalating, and I think, again, it would be narrative. I've long believed, I've gone back and forth on it, but in 2022, my original theory was that the narrative between Trump, Putin, and Xi would escalate to a degree that nobody thought it would escalate to. But I think that that's narrative. This could be part of that. It's also possible that Putin comes in and acts as a mediator with this whole thing, which is, by the way, what he's already supposedly doing in the Gulf states.
Yeah.
So one of the major reasons, according to the central narrative, that the Gulf states have not responded is because of Vladimir Putin's calls to them. So that's kind of interesting because that's something Donald Trump has done with some of these countries. They're like, hey, chill out. We got your back. And then you've got Putin calling from the other side of the war, supposedly saying, hey, Saudis, hey, UAE, Qatar, just chill out. Let's not get crazy here.
Yeah. There's an interesting story I got to show you. Brian Official in our chat sent this through. And we got to read through some of this. It has to do with AI and Anthropic and cloud. Because have you been following the cloud thing and how it's like getting banned?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You got to read through this. Anthropic's AI tool Claude central to U.S. campaign in Iran amid a bitter feud. Advanced AI technologies identifying targets in Iran and quickly prioritizing them, supporting the massive military operations carried out by U.S. and Israeli forces. In order to strike a blistering 1,000 targets in the first 24 hours of its attack in Iran, the U.S. military leveraged the most advanced artificial intelligence it's ever used in warfare, a tool that could be difficult for the Pentagon to give up, even as it severs ties with the company that created it. The military's Maven smart system, which is built by data mining company Palantir, is generating insights from an astonishing amount of classified data from satellite surveillance and other intelligence, helping provide real-time, targeting and target prioritization to military operations in Iran, according to 3 people familiar with the system. Embedded into the system is Anthropic's AI tool Claude, a technology that was banned by the Pentagon last week after heated negotiations over the terms of its use in war. Over the last year, military planners have seen Claude paired with Maven mature into a tool that is in daily use across most parts of the military, according to 2 of the people. Well, a couple more things here. As planning for a potential strike in Iran was underway, Maven, powered by Claude, suggested hundreds of targets, issued precise location coordinates, and prioritized those targets according to importance, said 2 of the people. The pairing of Maven and Claude has created a tool that is speeding the pace of the campaign, reducing Iran's ability to counterstrike and turning weeks-long battle planning into real-time operations. The AI tool is to evaluate a strike after it is initiated, the person said. The Claude has also been used in countering terror plots in the raid that captured Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. I think this is fascinating because, like, I'm picturing a scenario where the military is just like pressing a button, like, okay, go, and then AI has all the targets, it monitors it all in real time, it knows where all they're at, it tracks them continuously, and then it just shoots the rockets and does all the things. Like we're just sitting there not doing anything. We're just like watching the AI do these bombings for us, like literally a video game.
Which doesn't that make you look at the Call of Duty posts a little bit differently? Like with,
no, because it's a social media account. So
yeah,
maybe.
but it's video game footage of them calling in video game drones while every headline is about drone strikes.
No, I get the irony. I do.
Yeah,
I'm just not going to get like, I'm never going to be the guy that's like, okay, the White House posted this. It's a comm for sure, because I don't think
it doesn't have to be.
Because like I've dealt with the congressman, I'm trying to get one on, and like this person runs the social media account for him. You know, the White House may be a little more sophisticated, but it's just probably some 20-year-old intern who's like,
yeah,
I'm going to post this. You know, I don't.
They're
think
clearly okay with it at the very least.
Oh, for sure.
With that stuff going out. But yeah, I mean, another little wrinkle here, and this, I don't know if this makes sense, but I thought the whole Anthropic thing was interesting. I was wrong in my initial reading of that. Speaking of being wrong, I thought that deal was falling apart and we were going to see little old Elon slide in there. Hey, we'll see. That narrative isn't over as far as I'm concerned, but we had OpenAI slide in there. Sam Altman, by the way, he's faced enormous backlash for doing that by his own people. There was a letter, joint letter signed by 900 of his own employees who were against what he's doing. The massive lawsuit between Elon Musk and Sam Altman is going to go public in 2026 with Discovery. So we're going to get to see how Sam Altman stole that company from Elon. So there's an interesting backdrop here. But regarding the war stuff, the surface level narrative that the Pentagon gave about why that Anthropic deal fell apart was essentially that Anthropic was not going to allow the US military to do whatever it wanted with the technology, right? That's like the normie, the liberals, like, we got to rein the government in, right? And so it sounds altruistic. It sounds good until you look at a picture of the founder of Anthropic. And then you're like, I don't know. But if you look at it through the framing you just mentioned of like pressing a button and the AI doing its thing, what if we invert that? What if we say the implication that Anthropic did not want the military to have control over its models implies that Anthropic had control over its models and not the military as deployed in war. Now, if Anthropic was not a good company, would it be a good thing if the US military was not in control of what that AI did when it came to deploying it in war? Like, there are a couple ways to look at that. So all the narratives are Anthropic's trying to protect us from the evil, bad US military. And the US military is saying, yeah, we actually need control over what the war-fighting AI modules are doing, you fucking idiots. So, no, we're not going to build, like, back doors into militarized AI for private contractors.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I read that whole thing. Now, do I like that Sam Altman's involved? No, not at all, but
well,
it's interesting.
My take on it is like they got it just long enough to definitely recreate the code and just have their own militarized version of the AI that doesn't matter. They don't need him anymore.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because if you don't think the NSA can like replicate whatever cloud was, they definitely can and already did. And if anything, like I wouldn't be surprised if there's a lawsuit eventually from Claude against the government for that specifically. Then you're going to get like the secrets. What's the thing that they use in government secrets in lawsuits? Do you remember? What's that called? Isn't it just government secrets? I don't remember. Like when they can claim like government secrets and they can't.
Yeah.
Oh, what's that freaking called? Somebody in the chat will know.
It's like when you're playing Manhunt and you have the home base.
Hold on, let me find this. I know this is a thing. The state secrets privilege. That's what it is. That'll get brought up, which 100% will confirm that they definitely replicated the AI stuff. But that's an interesting reading of it. Like, obviously, you don't want to give over control of the warfighting 100% AI, especially if that is then being controlled by, private contractors.
And I don't know, but I just thought it was interesting. I didn't see any of the articles I read being like looking at that pathway from the opposite side. And
Yeah.
going, yeah.
Well, it's just weird too, the timing of it. It's like, okay, we're gonna start this war. We get war starts on Saturday. I think it was Saturday or Sunday. Trump comes out and announces that, like, well, yeah, we're done with this AI. We're gonna completely phase it out. You have 6 months to do it. This is ridiculous. Completely bans it. And then the next day or 2 days later, we get another story that's like, yeah, the military is using cloud and AI, the thing that they just banned, and have 6 months to phase out in like all of their war fighting. They're the ones who picked all the targets, prioritized them, shot the missiles, all these things. This is weird. You know?
Yeah.
I don't know.
And you can't get away from Tolkien with these things, because all our future military companies seem to be named after Lord of the Rings things. We've got Palantir, Anduril. There's some other ones out there.
Rise of Tyre says, think about it. If we, no, it's not privileged. I was talking about the state secrets thing. It's a real, think about it. If we really killed the Ayatollah and this wasn't part of some deal, why would Iran have come out and said we killed him? They would never give us that satisfaction.
So actually, I kind of agree with them. So when I put out that post on Saturday of like, I think this is the Venezuela template and here's how it might look from here. My first marker was look for the Iranians to be the first major party or the first major player on the board to confirm everything Trump is saying. And they were. And that's why. And it's like, who's doubting Trump's narratives? The Israelis, the globalist media, John Bolton and the neocons. By Sunday, they had already started being like, I don't know. Trump said like we got this guy and that guy, but I don't know if we did. Whereas the Iranians came out and they were like, they got us. They bamboozled us again. He did it. And they did this back during Midnight Hammer when Trump had this incredible, most successful thingamajig ever. And Israel was like, I don't know. We're still going to send our bombers over there just to make sure you got them. And Trump was like, you better turn the fuck around right now because you're insulting me that you think I didn't get them and that you want to get them again. And the Iranians came out and said, he totally got us, guys. You don't have to bomb us again. So same thing is happening here. They're like, that Ayatollah, he got him. And he got all those other guys too. I mean, his son might be the next Ayatollah, but that's besides the point, I guess.
Well, so far there's been a couple Ayatollahs, and every one so far has been bombed like within an hour of it happening.
And Trump said he took a bunch out by accident too. Yeah,
Ghost, like his thought process on him not being convinced that Ayatollah's been alive the last like couple of years. I think that's very interesting.
Yeah.
The truth is we don't know. We don't know what we don't know. It's easy to like. It's probably easiest to like just jump to the conclusion that like the whole thing is fake and set up, and that's probably where I even lean to is like this is more of a pre-planned thing, and they're trying to give like Iran an out, but there are bad elements in there that they need to take out in order to get us to that end game. How long that'll take, I don't know, but we'll see. You know, the whole giving the Iranian people the opportunity to actually, you know, choose who their next government is or whatever that even means. Like Trump has said, hey, Iran, now's your opportunity. Rise up, take the government that, you know, create the government that you want or whatever. But also while you're rising up, stay indoors, don't move, don't come outside for a while.
Yeah.
But
and the new government should be a Khomeini.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's a little silly, little hypocritical. Are they really choosing who they get to have next if we're just telling them it's going to be a committee? And is that really happening if this has all been pre-planned?
Go ahead. I have a different read on that as well.
Yeah.
Well, not necessarily than you, but than a lot of people. I think that Trump is taunting and ridiculing the other color revolution. So just like with Venezuela, he keeps, again, the Venezuela model comms over and over by Donald Trump are not an accident. So what was my read in Venezuela? That Donald Trump intercepted a real color revolution with a fake one. The real color revolution was Hakuna Matata, as Chris would say, Maria Corina Machado. They were building her up in the central narrative. They had been funding this through NGOs, and it was supposed to end with the removal of Nicolas Maduro and the installation of Machado into Venezuela, Weffian, Sorosian, globalist. Instead, Trump comes in, swaps out swaps out Maduro for the Maduro administration, keeps the Maduro regime in place, and completely disarms the color revolution that's going on down there. And I said, watch for Machado to call for another regime change. And then Ghost found the video like within days of her going on Fox News and saying, I'm not sure Delcy Rodriguez is enough of a regime change. I think we should consider swapping her out too. And she got no mandate for it. She got no energy behind it. So if the same template is playing out in Iran, then what I think was going to happen is a real violent regime change invasion by Israel and or others, intel assets in the region, and a real on-the-ground color revolution that had already been building in Iran, that ironically the Ayatollah and everybody in the Iranian government has been saying for the last 6 months that there's a color revolution here that's being funded by US intel and globalist assets. And I think Trump is taunting them. And he's saying, like, hey, you know, if the people really want a regime change, you should go for it. You should storm the government right now and see what happens while there is a state of war going on and we've got all these US military assets and drones in the region. You should definitely rise up against the regime right now. So to me, it would be like him sending a National Guard to all major US cities and then putting out a truth post saying, I think this would be a good time for Antifa to hit the streets and really make your voices be heard. So that's my read on it. And we're never going to know. But I think it was similar to Venezuela, where he's like, I know what you were going to do. So are all you color revolutionaries going to stay indoors now? This is your chance, isn't it?
Yeah. But okay, double reading though. What if he did mean that? Like, because I try to equate some of the stuff like that he's saying now to like some of the stuff he said about us. Like, hey, I'm giving the government back to we the people, and yet we refuse to try to even pretend to do that here. Like, we just sit back and watch the Trump as he does things, and we complain from our armchair quarterback situations we got going on. But like the things he's telling them to do are things that we're not even willing to do here. But he's kind of used some similar rhetoric in the past. Like I think there was a color revolution run against him that he thwarted to a degree, even though Biden got in there, the whole election thing, devolution, whatnot. But also he did a counter color revolution here domestically. I don't think it's all the way done yet, though. It's clearly not. We have so many deep state elements left. But that's a very interesting reading to like if he's saying that to the bad guys, to like, I don't know.
Yeah, go for it. Finish your plan. Well, it's
that.
just, to me, it's dueling color revolutions, dueling regime changes. That's what I think was going on in Venezuela. And again, I'm just taking Trump saying it's the Venezuela model. Now, he has never confirmed that there were dueling regime changes there, but that's just like out there. Clearly, and the reason, again, I go back to Machado, the reason I'm really confident that there was dueling regime change operations in Venezuela is because Machado said it the week later. According to the central narrative, the color revolutionaries in Venezuela got everything they wanted, except they weren't happy with it. And I think you're going to see the same narrative in Iran, where once the dust settles, we're going to have regime change, right? And the people are going to be free. But there's going to be these elements. It might be this Pahlavi guy, who the globalist media seems to be the only Iranian the globalist media is like, he might not be that bad. If it ends up being him, is he the Machado of Iran? Was he supposed to be the guy that came in when the people rose up? He was, I think Donald Trump used his killing words the other day with him and said he's a nice guy, but he's not sure if he's going to be the leader. He said Machado was very nice, but she's not going to be the leader of Venezuela. So to me, like, he does drop these templates and says, like, not really nice guy, has a lot of revolutionaries behind him. Don't think he's going to make the cut. Yeah.
At one point, though, at what point do we stop being okay with like Trump being the one to dictate this for other countries, though? You know what I mean?
Well, that's an assumption that I'm not making.
Well, I mean, kind of like.
You don't think the Iranians have anything to do with this?
I don't know. I mean, that'd be speculation.
If we have, I don't agree with that. Like, to me, this is all, again, you said earlier in the show.
No.
my foundation that I look at everything geopolitically with, admittedly, is that the Sovereign Alliance exists.
For sure.
And to me, the existence of the Sovereign Alliance, which would include elements in Iran, implies that they are in
That's really
control of
got
what's
next
going
way
on
into-
there,
yeah.
or like, and that in fact he's helping out whoever the new regime ends up being. And you don't even have to be a conspiracy theorist to believe that,
Yeah.
because if we're doing a regime change, then ostensibly we're helping out the new regime, right?
Yeah.
So-
do you think so, like, to the Venezuela template? I know we've talked about this quite a bit actually, but do you think Delcy is like who the people actually wanted down there?
Not necessarily, but that's an interesting conversation, because I know people in this audience don't like when I say stuff like this, but are you confident, seeing the lay of the land right now, that the American people, like the vast majority of the American people, want the right person as president? Like,
I don't know if that's
I
right.
want
Like,
Donald
what do you
Trump
mean?
as president. So even if we use like the most, I was going to say liberal, but I meant that in the literal term. Even if we use the most like bullish MAGA polling that we can find, there are 80 million adult Americans that hate Donald Trump.
Sure.
So if they hate him because they've been subjected to psyops, do we want to protect the decision-making abilities of those people? Like this is where I'm having Jonathan Drake on the narrative.
Are you saying that like they shouldn't be allowed to have a say in who?
What
leads
I'm
the
saying
country?
is the Venezuelan people, like the American people, are the most propagandized people against the Maduro regime. Just like the American people are the most propagandized people against the Trump administration.
Sure.
So do we think the average American is well educated when it comes to what's good for the future of their country? Like, this is where you do get into some of the stuff Alpha said on Wednesday night. I saw that like half of that show in hindsight, but I don't agree with everything he said on that show. But there are elements of what he's talking about with a military intelligence plan that I understand. If it's like,
Yeah,
okay,
I do too.
we're arguing about American sovereignty, but if the people are not just retarded, but literally have been programmed with beliefs that will fuck up their future if they are allowed to implement them, then like, where do you go with that?
Well, I think the obvious, culprit thing, the obvious problem here is the psyops. If we would get the truth, then it's almost like the psyops are like a crutch. It's like, well, we have to psyop these people because we can't tell them the truth, and because we're not telling them the truth, we can't allow them to make decisions for themselves because they're not getting the information. That shouldn't be how it is. It should just be like, hey, let's stop the psyops and start just telling everybody the truth, and then actually give them their sovereignty. Because I don't think the fact that people have been lied to is a good enough reason to also withhold their sovereignty. Like it's a fake sovereignty. You're not giving them anything real. You're giving them pretend sovereignty because you can't tell them the truth for their own benefit. You're giving them sovereignty for their own benefit by not allowing them to actually choose it because they're being lied to for their own benefit too.
I totally agree with that. That's the irony here. That's why I think that this is like the most difficult thought experiment that kind of defines the info war. If you're right about devolution, I think that I said this a few weeks ago. What was that? Right? Like, was that the truth?
Oh no.
Exactly. So it's kind of like we can understand. I do agree that at some point the psyops have to end. Chris said the point is not getting hoodwinked at all. I agree with that. I'm just making an argument that's like, if you're in that room, if you're one of those guys, whoever these magical patriots are, they do exist, because clearly they're running some kind of big fucking plan that none of us were involved in. Devolution involves a plan made by these people who we had nothing to do with that plan. Like, we had nothing to do with it, right? So people are making these decisions. And I'm not confident that if you were sitting in that room, you, me, Chris, people in our audience, I'm not confident that we would actually make a different decision. Because I imagine them presenting you like, listen, we've heard everything you've said. We like that you're advancing first principles, and we want you to continue to do that. And you're right. And this goes back to the Lucius Fox Dark Knight analogy, where Batman turns to Lucius and he's like, you're not going to stop me. Why isn't Lucius going to stop him? And actually, I'll add one more thing to that scene. Batman gives Lucius the detonator for the equipment. So he puts it in Lucius's hands and says, if you disagree with what I'm doing, you can stop me. And he doesn't, but he doesn't want the blood to be on his hands. And I do understand that argument from some of these military intel guys who probably hate, some of them probably hate us, because they're sitting there being like, that's cute, but we actually know what happens if we do the thing that you want us to do right now. We know with certainty what happens if we do that, and it is catastrophic.
How can they know that with certainty, though?
You just said earlier in this show that they have access to more analytics.
But they can't predict the future.
What is the point of analytics?
I don't know. It's behavior, pattern behavior recognition, stuff like that.
If they know with a
like
high
likelihood.
degree of confidence what is going to happen. I mean, you said this yourself about devolution, that you think that
Potential
Trump
civil
implemented
war.
this to avoid a civil war. So they didn't know a civil war was going to happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
They believe strongly based on metrics that we don't have access to. So that's why I think,
and other reasons, but yeah.
Ultimately, I'm not even trying to disagree with you. I believe that we should do this and that we should move in this direction and not be okay with that. I'm just saying, if you're dealing with Venezuela, I think it's largely similar to Americans, where it's like, okay, what's Maduro gonna go on a news conference and be like, hey guys, it turns out it was the CIA all along. He did that for 8 years. He was openly saying, the CIA is subverting me. I am not behind the cartels. The cartels are trying to oust me, and the globalists are trying to install Machado. And yet, if he gave the Venezuelan people a real election, they were going to elect her. So at that point, like, what the fuck? Like, Donald Trump's doing press conferences for 10 years telling the American people there is a deep state. They are making everything up. They're a criminal cabal, and they're subverting my entire presidency, and half of the country thinks he's lying when he's telling them the truth.
Yeah, but I mean, to more to my point of where I was going with this is like, the idea that we're just, we're doing these regime changes, and there's some sovereign alliance regime changes, and we can see the game theory and why we think he's doing it, and how he's subverting and rug pulling some of the deep state stuff, which is all great stuff. But also, like, what is our role in this? Like, and at what point? And I think that the point of the conversation there, where it's like, well, do you really trust 80 million Americans right now because they hate Trump, and maybe they wouldn't be making an informed decision? And when it comes down to our role in this, and like why I think what we have here with Badlands is great. We don't agree. We have the friction. We advocate for people getting involved in their local Badlanders group, badlandsmedia.tv/groups. You can get together with people in your area and figure shit out at the local level. At least have some people to hang out with, have some good times. And sometimes Badlanders will come hang out. But like that's where I think we fit in. Like, if we're not trying to like end the bullshit propaganda and stop justifying the propaganda, and at least, like, even if there's 80 million people who disagree with us, let's at least give them the opportunity to make informed decisions. And if at the end of the day they still agree with us, then that's like kind of where the dice end up. Like that's not there's nothing else we can do. But a lot of the times I think, and I'm not saying you were doing this, because I think we're both kind of playing devil's advocate a little bit to positions we don't necessarily hold. But a lot of times this is a behavior that we see, is people will justify so many things that even would go against what they call their first principles in order to explain away why shitty things are happening and why we're like just cheerleading on these shitty things all over the place. And this is one of those things, like, it's the freaking propaganda. There's really no excuse for it at this point. I mean, I'm sure they have excuses for it, but there's no reason that we should be allowing it to continue to happen by not at least complaining about it constantly. Like, I am so sick of being lied to constantly. Yeah. Everybody's doing it.
And I totally agree with every word of what you just said. And that's why I think, I guess the one caveat I'd put onto what I said is that I'm saying I think this is their justification for it. And I'm not confident that if we had the same information they had, that we would not do the same thing in their position. But to your point, we are not in their position, which means we can and should only do what we can do in our position. And I agree with you that in our position, the thing to do is not to cheerlead for these things. The thing to do is to have conversations like this where we lay out what we think the lies are, even if the lies are coming from people that we like, and understand why they're lying that way, right? I think your criticism, which I agree with, is that a lot of the truth community, in my opinion, doesn't do that. They would say a lot of what I just said, but they would end that with, which is why you should cheer this on. And you shouldn't talk about that it's a psyop, and you shouldn't talk about that it's a lie. I don't agree with that. I think we should talk about that it's a lie and it's a psyop, and people need to take their own sovereignty. And ultimately, I do agree with you. You know, talking about Badlanders groups, we talk about Bitcoin a lot, all kinds of things. The Second Amendment. I mean, I totally agree with decentralization, and I'm going to have Jonathan Drake on the narrative on Sunday night. He was triggering Badlanders in the GART chat on Telegram today in a good way. They were healthy back and forths. But, you know, him and Chris are having these kind of conversations that's like, hey, kind of like what I was saying on this show, at what point do we start revisiting, this is maybe long term, at what point do we start revisiting that this whole democracy idea, like, it's a little silly to spend your time trying to figure everything out and having these sovereign-minded conversations and how can we actualize and take power back. And then you go to a barbecue and you're like, these fucking people are idiots. And I don't want them to have any say over any aspect of my life. And yet I'm trying to save a system that codifies their right to vote for people that have control over me.
Yeah.
Like, maybe that's not what the end state should be, you know, like it's even beyond the psyops. It's like at some point, I think we're a long ways from this, but we're starting the conversations early. At some point, we need to revisit, like I said this at GARTS, and I've gotten, like, you know, shouted down for it every time, not by other people at Badlands, but by some people in the audience. I've said, if the Constitution was going to work, it would have worked. The idea to me that we're just going to go back to that stuff is very silly. But yeah, you know, we're not ready for that.
I get that. And these are some like next step conversations that we should be having. But there's a lot, there's so many.
There's a few steps in between.
A few steps. And it's almost like it was overwhelming on November, what was it, 4th, when Trump was the winner of the election back in 2024. I was like, man, we got so much to do. This is going to be so fun. It's going to be a great opportunity. Things are just going to be like lightning switch. And so we're talking about it, and days and weeks go by, and it's like, well, you know, some great things happening. Yeah. But like, there's some really major things that we're told are being addressed, but there's like literally nothing actually happening to address. And then, you know, months go by and the stories about the things, you know, like, oh, we fixed that. And then a couple months later, it's like, well, here's that same story again that it was never fixed at all. And it's just like over and over again. And now we're almost to those pesky little midterms that everybody's super concerned about. And in terms of like progress on a lot of the narratives that we were hoping to get some sort of resolution on, even going back to like COVID, like have we gotten any, you know, anything from COVID, 2020 election, like stuff like that? It's overwhelming to think of how far we still have to go to even be having next level conversations. Like, do we need, is the Constitution even right?
Government?
It's like do we need a government?
I mean,
like,
you know, these were conversations the founding fathers were having. They were like, we don't want a government, so what do we do now? And there was a lot of debate about, you know, what they did now. But, you know, those are the funnest conversations, I think. And I did want to just show a few of the headlines that I had sent over to you because they're perfectly in line with what you're saying. And I think this is a white pill. To your point about like, the midterms, the pesky midterms, the media seems to know that Donald Trump doesn't seem that concerned about the midterms for a couple reasons. 5 times Trump pushed Congress aside to take control.
Hell
This
yeah.
was published 3 days ago. We've got Trump buries the 20th century. This was from 2 days ago as well. This is all about constitutional authority.
Yeah,
The
you sent me
Atlantic.
that one. I don't think I read that one.
Which one? The 20th century?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's good. There's some great reverse indicators in these.
yeah,
And we've
and
got
what's funny about these articles, like that are about the constitutional stuff, this is what Trump does, and like with the war that he's doing right now, and people are like, well, is it really constitutional for him to be doing this? Like, did he have the constitutional authority to do this? We had this conversation on Saturday. It's no, like no, just the previous presidents have abused the power and they got away with it. And like, that's one of the conversations by doing it this way, is that, yeah, we should be having these kinds of conversations of whether or not he had the authority. And just because Trump's the one who did it, and just because other people did it before him, it doesn't change the actual constitutionality of it. And we should still be acknowledging the truthfulness of, no, he did not have the constitutional authority to do these strikes. Like, that's
unless
he
didn't do what he is saying he did, right?
That's possible.
Wouldn't that be kind of a swerve? If it's like, we've often said, like, is Trump lying? Or is he telling truths that even the truth community do not believe him about?
Okay,
like,
well then what would the ramifications? What are you implying here? I'm curious.
The whole fake war idea, right? Like fake war, performative war. If Trump knows that he has not instituted unlawful military operations in a foreign country, he has not violated the Constitution, nor would he need congressional approval. Now, what kind of framework would you need for that? I'm not arguing, I promise I'm not even arguing that nothing is happening. Let's say kinetic strikes and all this stuff is happening. What if, to my earlier Sovereign Alliance point, he has permission to do these things?
To be fair, too, like, my own caveat here is I don't care about him getting approval from an illegitimate Congress. Like, that is meaningless to me. Like, and plus the Constitution's been so warped, and we've had this kind of conversation so many times that that's not even what I'm necessarily concerned about. It's just, if we're being honest with ourselves and what the law actually says. But people seem unwilling and uncomfortable, if you're a Trump supporter, to have those kinds of conversations, when you can be a Trump supporter and still have those difficult conversations. That's okay. That's probably what he wants. It's probably why he's doing half the shit he does.
I totally agree with that. That either way, those headlines he loves. Like, we should, whatever is or is not happening with Iran.
Yeah,
it's good that they're all arguing about constitutional authority. I mean, I'm old enough to remember, probably when we were all getting into this, that any time the media used the word constitution in an article, it was a pejorative. It was like, we need to do away with this thing. It's holding us back, right? And now we've moved, the Overton window has moved to such a degree that the last vestiges of systemic power the system is trying to cling to is the Constitution. That's kind of a white pill, if you look at it that way. You're like, man, they think things are going this well for them, huh? That they're out here arguing on behalf of the Constitution, that I bet you we could go into the histories of these writers on the Atlantic and Politico, etc., and probably go back about 8 years and find a bunch of articles where they're like, the Constitution's really problematic and we need to do away with it. And now they're like, the Constitution, he's ruining it.
It's like the aspects of the Q community and then the mainstream media have like just completely switched roles.
Yeah. Yep.
But it goes back to what you said earlier. This is the effect Trump has, is like, by doing the things he does, he gets people to completely flip their previous positions, because he does the difficult things. He takes all the slings and arrows for us and puts us in places where we're having the discussions we really should be having.
And Chris called him, I don't know when he did this, a couple of years ago, I think, divider in chief, which I think was a good way to put the same thing, right? Like, yeah, that's the point.
And Trump's kind of leading into the whole like the cult mentality, which I think is funny. Like, he's resharing and retweeting articles that are talking about the people who were like once Trump supporters, and now like
they're not MAGA anymore. Did you see that Tucker was de-knighted
with the war? Was he?
Yeah, he's not MAGA as of today.
Oh wow.
He might be again as of this
And so that's the exact behavior I think Trump is actually again. Like if Trump is really meaning to give the government back to we the people, do you think he would be like trying to be the face of a movement that excommunicated anybody who disagreed with anything it ever did? Like, is that really like what the Make America Great Again movement is supposed to be about? Because the founding fathers were all about debate and differing of opinions, just with the underlying principles. Like, yeah, we're going to be one united country. We're not going to agree on everything, but we're going to do what's best for America. But no, it's like, you don't agree with me, you're out of here. You're no longer part of this club. You're not part of our Make America Great Again movement. How dare you?
Mm-hmm.
That's ridiculous. He's leaning into that, and I think it makes it look more ridiculous. But people are cheerleading that too. Like, yeah, let's do it even harder.
You know, if you were going to one of those articles, I don't even know freaking which one it was now, but I had posted the quote in our Badlands chat earlier. Oh, here it is. It was the one I sent you. I thought this line was incredible out of a propagandist. So this was in the Trump buries the 20th century. This was out of Politico. Look at this line. Across both his terms as president and in so many different areas of policy and governance and culture, his signal achievements have been acts of demolition. Word for word, I agree with that entirely. Yeah. Now, they're framing that as a bad thing, but to the point you just made, it's kind of interesting to think, is Trump trying to turn MAGA into a cult, or is he pointing out that it has become one? And he's like, you said this in your post, a couple days ago. If anybody was thinking about getting on the train, they're definitely not after the events of this week and the narratives of this week. Yeah. And when they see Trump acting like that, they're like, well, I'm just going to keep evaluating things the way I do, and I'm not going to join like a new group. So I don't know, if you were going to do a controlled demolition of the idea of like MAGA being a party, because that's not what we want it to become. I'm only speaking for myself. I didn't get in this. I said this in much more direct language in an article I wrote, The Cult of Morpheus, a couple weeks ago. But I didn't drag myself across a shattered liberal mindscape to reforge the Republican Party. That wasn't the idea here.
It's really funny.
Yeah,
I need to point this out. I don't remember exactly when it was, but there was a show, and Ghost, you're in the chat, maybe you'll remember. I think you, me, Ghost, some other people were on a show, and we were talking about Tucker Carlson, and everybody was like kind of excited about the things Tucker was doing and saying.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I mean, he's saying the things we like right now, but that doesn't change my thoughts on the guy. Like, he's probably CIA. He's probably I don't even remember the arguments, but I was like being kind of crucified a little bit as being the voice of reason, in my opinion. Obviously, everybody had a different take on it, right? If you fast forward to now and we had that same conversation, everybody would be cheerleading the side that's like, we can't trust Tucker. Like, fuck to that guy. Like, he's the worst. He's kicked out of the movement now. Like, what are you guys doing liking Tucker Carlson? But now I find myself like, I'm not defending who Tucker is or anything he says, even though I still like some of his content, whatever. But the principle of him being excommunicated is retarded. Absolutely retarded. And it's like, it's funny how I feel like I'm the bad guy in both situations somehow. But again, it's me like just taking what I think is my principled view on it versus everybody else is just going with wherever Trump is dictating the narrative of it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Well, and this is the contradiction that happens, and we've been pointing out a lot tonight. It's not about whether or not you're right about Tucker Carlson. It's that your position has remained consistent.
Yeah.
And what other people don't understand is that their positions are not remaining consistent, which is also okay if you then acknowledge that your position has not remained consistent.
Well,
but they don't. They're like, I'm consistently MAGA the whole time. It's like, well, you said Tucker was one of you a month ago, and now he's not? Is he again next week? Like when Trump endorses him again? Because he will, and he'll do another, sit down with him. And
I want to go back and find, like, I'm pretty sure because every now and then especially when things get real heated, not between us and Battle, but like with the chat, I'll screenshot the chat and just like, I'm going to remember this so that I can later show you guys how ridiculous you're being. Because a lot of people that I'm even seeing, that maybe not right now, but I know for a fact a lot of people who hated on me for my take, probably some of the people who have been posting about me lately, like who had me blocked once and then unblocked me to reshare my tweets and think they're dunking on me somehow. You know, they were also dunking on me for probably my Tucker takes back then, only to now be celebrating his excommunication and all these things. It's like they're okay. You're mad at me for supporting Tucker, or you're mad at me because you want to support Tucker and I'm not there. And now you have completely inverted your position to you no longer support Tucker. What happened? What changed? Which time were you wrong? Because one of those times you're wrong.
They're never right or wrong. They're always just somewhere in the middle. But they claim to be right.
File away everything, guys.
Yeah, and on that note too, just for me personally, obviously I write about and talk about the Sovereign Alliance idea a lot. And man, do I get a kick out of an enraged, furious, maddening kick out of watching on the periphery of the Venezuela and now Iran situation, 90% of the truther movement talking about how Trump is owning China and the Russians when they spend the rest of the time aping my takes almost word for word on the secret game theory going on between Donald Trump and Russia and China, and how they are part of an alliance and they're going to make peace with each other and they're all on the same team, except right when a headline hits that Trump is winning an energy war against China, it becomes the plan to defeat China in an energy war, right? So then as soon as Trump has his meeting with Xi in April, they are immediately going to invert, and we're going to see all the drops, and we're going to see the pictures of Trump and Xi in the hidden city, the forbidden city, and this was planned long ago, but right now they are super pleased if Trump cuts off all energy flows to China. Almost like none of these people have any principles or consistent framework through which they view the world.
Almost as if, man. But hey, what do you think we maybe get a quick word from one more of our sponsors?
Yeah.
And then we can get some boosts and some rants if you want to get the boosts pulled up.
Got him.
Okay, let me see what we got available. We already did a Rumble wallet, right?
We did.
Is that a yawn?
It was. It was a suppressed yawn.
I don't know what to do here. Some of these I think are for... I can't tell how these work. You know what? We'll just...
Speaking of Tucker, something I thought was kind of funny tonight. We got replaced by the Fresh and Fit again, but we usually do.
On the show, yes, we do.
Before that, when we were featured above Tucker Carlson and Tim Pool, who were live at the same time on their channels, and all three of us were displaced by Fresh and Fit.
Joe Gilmore in the chat says, John fears Q, not sure why. This dude, you come into every chat and say this. It's so retarded. It's not fucking true at all. It's so retarded.
That's why John has hosted the most popular Q shows outside of X22 Report on the internet for the last 3 years.
I don't get why you constantly come into my chat and try to accuse me of something I'm not. That's the dumbest thing. Like, either stop watching or start telling the truth, because that's bullshit. So retarded.
A sock account.
Nah, I mean, he's pretty consistent. I mean, it could be. Definitely could be, but it's so dumb. I don't understand. But your decoders are retarded. That's all I'm saying.
Read The Cult of Morpheus, buddy.
Yeah.
Be like,
why does Tim Pool annoy the crap out of me? That's a good question, wretched man that I am. I think he annoys the crap out of a lot of people. I haven't seen much of him. The nice thing about the Iran narrative is there's been very little Epstein talk, which is
they're trying to bring it back.
Are they now?
Did you see they subpoenaed Pam Bondi today to try to get it back in the news?
Who did it? It was probably like one of the Nancy Mace or some shit. It is either Luna. Oh no, she's been pro-Trump. It's either gonna be hold on, before you tell me, it's either gonna be Mace or Massey or maybe a Ro Khanna or something.
The move was spearheaded by Rep. Nancy Mace.
Fucking bitch. Knew it.
And then is there any other For Republicans, Reps Lauren Boebert,
that would have
Scott Perry, Tim Burchett, and Michael Cloud joined Democrats on the panel to force the subpoena through.
Interesting. Michael Cloud. I'm gonna have to get him on.
Yeah, they're gonna.
He's one of the guys
gonna
I'm
get
interviewing.
Pam up there and be like, "You can't handle the truth," or she's gonna say that to them.
I'm starting to think that Tim Burchett is avoiding me because I've had some people like, hey, we're gonna try to get this guy on your show, and
He's just
I was
sneaking everywhere he goes.
I was able to snag his comm director's email address. So I have this is the guy whose job is to respond to emails he receives about scheduling him for interviews. And I sent him an email requesting an interview, and I have not yet got a response. So I feel like I may be getting avoided.
Yeah, spooked him.
Yeah, it's that pesky tax question.
It is interesting, though, that in the midst of Donald Trump talking about nothing but the discombobulator in Iran, that, all Congress wants to talk about is Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah. I don't know. They tried to do the whole vote where they, you can't do that, Trump. And they got shut down. That was in the Senate.
Yeah. Well, again, we've talked about this a few times, and we will many more times this year, but the only person who doesn't seem that concerned about the midterms is Trump. I'm sure we're going to get the Trump truce of our country will just die immediately if this doesn't happen a certain way. But he doesn't seem to acknowledge the existence of Congress all that often. And it seems to upset Congress a lot.
Here's the thing. Glass City Aquatics. Bro, y'all dumb if think we Stalin Epstein stuff. No. First world peace, then it's all revealed. How are people so dumb still after decades of watching these things? Still email rage. It's that's a funny take because Friday,
think that, by the way.
As of Friday, yeah, first of all, we don't think that, but I'm telling you how I think you thought. Friday, you didn't even know this war was going to happen. So you were not like first world peace. Then like a month ago, you were like, see, everything's here. We got it all. We got all the Epstein stuff. See? And then now it's like, okay, well, maybe we didn't get any of the stuff we thought, but obviously we had to wait to actually expose that stuff until, whatever. Oh, it's the war. That's why we're waiting to it. Now I get it. Like, get out of here. Retarded.
And again, the funny thing is when I know that they're sock accounts is when I see that they are actually saying the opposite of what we just said, which is that Congress is accusing Pam Bondi of holding back files. We are not, which is why we think it's retarded.
Well, don't speak for we there because I don't trust Pam Bondi. I haven't. I thought she was a clown the whole time. And I wouldn't be surprised if there were members of his DOJ, Trump's DOJ, and his administration generally, like a Pam Bondi or a Top Launch or some of these other people who were intentionally fucking up the release of the Epstein files, which Trump didn't campaign on, but at every opportunity has said, yeah, put them out. I don't care. Put them out. Trump is not the one who's going through there in a back office one at a time, choosing which files are released. That's other people. It wouldn't surprise me or shock me to see that there was intentional mess ups or just mess ups generally that would later look bad upon Trump and his administration to make it seem like there's a cover up, which they could later use to damage him. Like if you were writing a script of how to we need to plan an op. It's going to be a long-term op just in case Trump gets back in there, that we can unleash this time bomb so that it explodes in Trump's face. And we're going to need some people to help us do it. But you couldn't have written it better than the Epstein thing because Trump wasn't the one who built up the lore. Other people did. And it reached a fever pitch because of people in Trump's administration, not Trump himself. Trump was never the one that even did the whole, we're the most transparent administration in history. He latched onto that a few times, but that was started by other people in his administration and like the Con Inc. influencers. Like I would not be surprised if Pam Bondi is in on it. And
and again, they're just trying to keep re-injecting it to take over the news cycle. It doesn't seem to be working.
Yeah.
Works on certain segments, works on like YouTube.
Let's see. I always love checking, see how long these people have been following, because I've never seen that account in the chat before. So, yeah, they're retarded.
There's certain syntax. I am a little bit retarded with syntax of how people communicate. I've got a photographic memory with that.
Yeah, Renetta Ford here. You kind of nailed it though. Blondie is setting up Trump for impeachment. That's not how you spell impeachment, but is what it appears could potentially
Part of the
be
plan,
happening.
though, so she must be good.
Yeah. Anyway, do us a favor, hit that thumbs up. Let's do the boost. I'll do the rants. If you want to.
All right. Boost. We got Carrying the Fire sent $10 over. I can't remember a time when Israel looked so bad. Maybe it's exposure, but it also feels like someone's working overtime to make me think so. They seem to have a major influence in our government and media, so why are we seeing all the negative stuff? Yeah.
Who is that from?
That's from Carrying the Fire. It is interesting. There's a lot of negative reporting on Israel. I think that's the most difficult narrative to untangle. And the media doesn't really know, speaking of the discombobulator, I don't think the media really knows what to do about it. You know, like if they go too far in one direction, they're anti-Semites. And if they go too far in the other direction, they're kind of going against their overlords.
Yeah.
So,
well, this is what I said about Trump, though, with the Israel thing, is like if it really was a problem, it's been a problem for a long time, their influence over our government. And at no point in history has it ever been so apparent and so talked about than now. And I think that's by design. I think there's a reason so many people are like kind of anti-Israel. And I'm not saying all like anti-Semitic or anti-Jews or whatever. But in terms of their pervasive influence over American politics, I think that's never been more apparent. And I think it's by design.
Glass City Aquatics wanted to clarify that they've been a fan of this show since the Obama days. So that's the level of authentic. Sometimes, we don't often like to do this, but sometimes it's a good thing for the chat to see that we're not actually crazy when we tell you that these people create accounts or pay for accounts to come into our shows that may or may not be Pajits. You can find very cheap listings to do this and say kind of nonsensical stuff to derail conversations. And sometimes
how do you know so much about the
you can
cost
just
of
find
these
this shit on
things?
Fiverr. It's pretty easy. But yeah, you can do that. You can buy likes for like $20. You can do all kinds of things. But when you say that you've been watching a show for years before that show existed, like it means you didn't read the commission email that you were given on the talking points that you're supposed to bring into the chat, which is how these things work. And I don't think they're getting their money's worth because a lot of the stock accounts stop after the first like 5 minutes of the chat and they go away.
Yeah.
And then sometimes they'll come in the last 5 or 10 minutes or so. So
Joe Gilmore.
running low on funds, I think.
Joe Gilmore gave us a $5 rant. God bless you guys and all you do. That's not an apology, but I'll take it.
KCMO Mom
Thanks,
sends $25 over. Need advice. Husband is slowly waking up and voiced concern about the Republicans losing the midterms. He wants us to send money to the RNC. My suggestion is to fund local Missouri, but he thinks we need to support toss-up elections. Elections are fake. Well, you sound based. Man, I can't imagine donating money to a political party ever.
Yeah.
I would never donate money to Donald Trump. Like, it's fucking mine. It's for my family.
Like what?
And I'm not going to give money to politicians.
What are they going to do? What does the money do when you donate it to politicians? Like, what do they use it for? Like, how does that help them get elected? Like, does it go into a commercial? Does it go to their pocket? Does it go to pay for, campaign? I don't even know who they hire, like analysts or whatever. Like, where's the money going? How does it help them get elected? Because 9 times out of 10, it's either going to media or it's some sort of pyramid scheme or something. It's bullshit. I would never give money to a politician either. If there's a cause that the politician says they're going to help support, like, yeah, we're going to go and fix the broken education system or something, give the money to something education related instead that you can vet and know will be doing a good thing
in your orbit. Yeah,
or,
it's always better.
Or convince him to, support Badlands Media.
Yeah.
So we can keep our lights on.
Right.
But yeah.
You guys should all donate to my campaign when I do run for to be a new to bring the Kennedys back.
Is that what we're gonna do? I heard they
Since
already
I
are
found
back.
out we're from the same clan, I gotta resuscitate the name.
I thought they already are back. I thought that's what the whole release of this new TV show is like. Comms that they're back.
Damn it, that's gonna make it awkward if I'm running against JFK Jr.
Yeah,
It's gonna make me look like a bad guy.
isn't that funny? Like, I don't even know. Is it Hulu putting out the show?
Yeah,
But it's like now it's comms. It's comms from the team
from Disney.
from Disney. Yeah,
They own Hulu, so yeah, comms from Disney. That's where we're at now.
crazy.
When they're not busy being satanic pedophiles, they're sending us comms.
Is that all the boosts?
One more boost from 1027JS, $20. Looking forward to tonight's DPH.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Fellow North Dakotan.
Did you guys get the ones? There was a couple from the 25th, which was when you and Chris were on. It was 1027JS said.
Well, was it a Saturday?
Oh no, it was when you and Alpha were on. I meant.
I would have read those then.
Okay. Then we're good.
Yeah. Okay, got some rants here for you guys. Ziggy Girl says, by the way, if you want to find an outro video, you can. Oh, you should find the Joe Biden clip that whoever sent in the chat earlier.
DBZ one.
Yeah, put it in the private chat and I'll put it up. Ziggy Girl, 1776 2.0. We are fighting for our sovereignty. Revolutionary War. Hold on. Who owns Iran's oil? British Petroleum. Iran is just a proxy. Expand your thinking. Yeah, this is very much the Prometheus action thing. I'd encourage you guys to go read Matt Ehret's Substack on this. I know a lot of the stuff they say sounds like really cool, and some of it they might be right, but I think Matt kind of nailed it on the head with that. Thomas Times, 76. Retired Marine gets his arm broken while trying to protest going to war for Israel. One for CanCon and Alpha tomorrow. Yeah, I heard about that video. I can't bring myself to watch it because I heard you can like see his arm snap, and that just if I don't have to watch videos like that, I don't want to. But that's frustrating. That happened. I will eventually watch it, but not right now. Rise of Tire for $5. Oh, excuse me, I'm yawning. Did y'all know that the first lines of the Lion King theme song that plays when baby Simba is being held out, that's sung in some African language, translate to "Look, it's a lion! Oh my God."
I'm not gonna fact check that just so that I can believe it as the truth, no matter what.
No way.
And I want it to be dubbed over with somebody saying that. What the heck are these videos?
I need to find something on that.
I think Ghost sent it to
Look,
me.
there's a line. Oh my God. I'm gonna look into that, man. That's hilarious. By the way, I want to check if there's any YouTube. How are you guys doing over on YouTube? Is there a Kratom availability crisis? Hold on. Do you want to read the next rant here? I'm checking something out.
What are you saying, Ash? Oh, same. She said same, BB. By the way, guys, subscribe to the Badlands Substack. Badlands.substack.com. We got the brief going out Monday through Friday every morning. It's sick. And then we've got the Blitz, which is an exclusive stream, exclusive show that goes out to Badlands Substack subscribers on Saturdays. Fill that Saturday void in your heart.
I'm trying to figure out what they're saying in the YouTube chat that Badlands needs to see. I don't understand. Is it this? It must be this. Let's see if I can copy. Okay. Can you read the next rant for me, man?
Which one were you on?
We just did the Rise of Tire one. Do the final demand.
Final demand. Trump is covering for Epstein, yet today the House voted down exposing the names of themselves and their aides. Our tax dollars have been settling sexual harassment and other crimes over $18 million.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. Yeah. Cam Cooksey, how I imagine the first call with the second IRGC leader went.
This is what the new Ayatollah.
Is that what he...
That's what he posted. So funny.
This is what... Hold on. We'll put Ghost video up here. I mean, Cam. This
Oh,
is
we're not
what he
done yet.
says the negotiate. No, I'm not for the outro. I'm saying he just sent this over in a rant.
Oh, okay. Yeah, go ahead.
This is the phone call with the first IRGC leader. He says, second IRGC leader.
This is Last Horseman. Who is this?
This is Flaming Dragon!
Oh, okay. Flaming Dragon. Fuckface. First, take a big step
Hold on.
back and literally.
We should probably take it off YouTube first
Okay.
so we don't get the copyrights. Guys, we're going to say goodbye to YouTube because we're almost done. Come on over to Rumble if you want to see these videos.
Yeah, come where the adults watch things. Like Fresh and Fit.
Yeah.